Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
How can I make sure my office never stops working?
With Staples Connect, it's possible.
I need to keep my back office stocked without messing up my bottom line.
Also possible, because Staples Connect has your small business covered with big savings on everything you need to get work done. This week, earn 30% back in a Staples store bonus when you buy any 2 ink cartridges, including HP. Explore what's new at your local Staples or staplesconnect.com. Staples Connect, the working and learning store. Limit 4, in-store only. Visit staplesconnect.com/store bonus for details. And 724.
Don't miss Lowe's Just for Pros event going on now. Get select appliance special values and even more in savings. Plus, shop other great values across the store. Shop in-store or online. Lowe's, the new home for pros.
From the WinBet studio, win with WinBet. WGFX Gallatin, Nashville. Titans training camp starts July 27th on your home for Titans football. Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 6 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. After trading Victor Arvidsson just a few weeks ago, the Nashville Predators continuing to reshuffle their roster. The Preds traded defenseman Ryan Ellis to the Philadelphia Flyers for center Nolan Patrick and defenseman Philip Myers. The Preds then sent Patrick to the Vegas Golden Knights for center Cody Glass. The expansion draft for the Seattle Kraken this week. The Predators decided to not protect Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, Calle Yarncroke, Colton Sissons, and Nick Cousins, among others. 24-year-old American Colin Morikawa won the Open Championship on Sunday, his second major championship victory in his career. Fired a final round 4 under to finish 15 under for the tournament, defeating Jordan Spieth by 2 strokes. Tampa Bay Rays defeated the Braves 7-5. Tampa rallied with 4 runs in the 7th inning to get the win. Atlanta 2 games below 500 and only 4 games out of first place in the NL East. Sounds lost to Louisville yesterday 4-2. They lost the final 3 games of the series after winning the first 3. And in NASCAR, Eric Almirola won at New Hampshire. That qualified him for the playoffs. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Now it's time for Jason Martin and Ball for Life Ramon Foster.
Powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors.
Together, they are JMart and Ramon on 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome in, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Glad to be with you. Blessed to be with you for another week. Start of another week, sprinkling on the way in. I couldn't tell if it was rain or if it was just falling off the trees. That's how little it was actually falling. We're in that time of year. 11-year NFL veteran, Ball for Life, Ramon Foster. Jonathan Schaefer, I'm Jason Martin. We're on Twitter at JMart and Ramon. You can find Ramon at Ramon Foster. At Schaefer on Sports, at JMart Radio. A lot to get to today. SEC Media Day set to kick off. Delaney Walker talks, and I roll my eyes. And Game 5, Drew Holiday with the game of his life. Probably the best game he'll ever play in his career because the way it finished, but also 27 points and a plus 14 plus minus rating on the floor. Now the series flips back to Milwaukee where they can win at home. And Phoenix has to do the tough thing now because they weren't able to hold home court despite the fact that Devin Booker had 40 points. That was just a heavyweight fight. That was the best game the NBA has seen since Game 7 of Bucks Nets that went to overtime with Kevin Durant with his foot on the three-point line and then missing the big shot at the end of the ball game. But that was a great basketball game on Saturday night.
Yes, it was, man. And like I said, the young studs did their thing. But, again, it comes to guys, the role players, guys that need to step up. Drew Holiday, as you said, did. They flipped the series. Exactly what they needed to, man. And you can tell Devin Booker and And Paul was not excited after. Chris Paul was not excited after the game, especially when the commentator asked him how did it feel or whatever that was. He asked him, man, it wasn't a good feeling. He's one game away from either tying or going home, man.
Yeah,
not great, Bob.
I think Phoenix fans, as good as Phoenix is, I think they feel like this has to be the year because the stars have aligned. Everybody got hurt at the right time in terms of making it a little bit of an easier pathway. You have a healthy Lakers team. You have Jamal Murray back in Denver. You have some changes coming. The chances of getting back are not great for Phoenix. That game on Saturday, and certainly this game coming up, most important game in the history of that franchise, because you just don't think they're going to be there again next year. Maybe Chris Paul even leaves after this year. Maybe he doesn't if they don't win. But even with them having a solid roster that you like, I just don't think I won't be picking them to get there next year.
No, it's either now or never. Simply put, with them, I ain't going to say now or never, but like you said, the West is loaded up, and one thing we've learned as of recently, the West Coast seems to attract the biggest superstars for the most part, except for KD going back east and stuff like that. But you got a feeling you think the Lakers going to do their thing. Dallas always seems to find a way. And I don't know what's going to happen with Dame. Dame is the one that could tilt this whole thing over. I'm not sure if he said he wants to be traded.
No, he said he didn't. He said he did not. But then he said, but I want to see urgency. He wants out.
He wants out.
But he doesn't want it to come from a report. So he denies the report. But Damian Lillard absolutely wants out. He knows because he's saying urgency. The urgency's not there. They're not going to get that free agent. They're not coming to Portland right now. He's going to be elsewhere, I predict. I think he could be a Knick. I think the dumbest thing I saw was him for Ben Simmons straight up. Because if I'm Portland, I'm like, why do I want that?
Yeah.
That's not the answer.
To
I guess they don't want to get lost
too?
in nothing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if C.J. McCollum leaves too. I mean, you may just blow that whole thing up because they're never going to get 4 out of 5 years in a row they've made the playoffs and gone out in the first round. As good as Damian Lillard is, Hall of Fame level talent, it doesn't matter. Like they're just not good enough as a team. So they're bringing in a new coach they think Damian Lillard will like, and Damian Lillard still. Because he knows he wants to go win somewhere, and he can't do it as the alpha dog. He can't be the best player on your team and you win a championship. That's what it looks like to me.
And I guess the way he see it too, even in Phoenix situation, Phoenix has a young stud in Booker. Ayton has finally come on. They got a savvy veteran and Chris Paul too, along with some role players. Cam Payne is doing this thing slowly but surely. See, they've fallen into the right year, as you said, Jay. They fallen in the right scenario of like, look, people got hurt, we played well, and everybody, and now they're in the finals. I don't think he sees that type of potential out of what Dame has in Portland, man. Like you said, McCollum's is nice, but after that, you still need 2 more studs to compete. You got a feeling LeBron and the Lakers are going to do their thing. Again, it's going to be tough. If with Phoenix and Devin Booker and whatever happens with Chris Paul moving forward. But just as a whole, man, they're still 2 pieces away, even with McCollum, I feel like, in Portland, man. And like you said, for them to do a fair trade with Ben Simmons, nah, Jack. That is a fleece, if you ask me.
Oh, no. I mean, the only way you do that is if you're not getting anything else and he's going to Carmelo Anthony you. The way that Carmelo did when he left Denver, and they ended up getting screwed because he took the leverage away. Right now, there's still leverage because Dame hasn't come out and openly said, I want out. But Henry Abbott's report, it just seems to me like, well, I didn't want it to come out this way. I kind of wanted it to be behind closed doors. So I'm going to say I didn't say this. And maybe he didn't say this, but the essence behind it is true. Like, I think Damian Lillard knows, okay, we've come to the end here. We had a good run. We all did all that we could, but there's nothing left to do. Top line free agents not coming to play with Damian Lillard in Portland right now. It's just not going to happen. C.J. McCollum probably needs to be elsewhere. You like Nurkic, but their best shot was a couple years ago, and Nurkic wasn't healthy for that postseason. They're just not going anywhere.
No.
So what do? Well, eventually you have to blow it up, unless your franchise is cool just making the playoffs every year, and that shouldn't be the goal.
No. It should not be the goal. You got to think, too, location means a lot to these NBA players, man, more than I think almost any sport. Portland. I mean, unless you're West Coast guy, which Dame is, it's kind of hard to get guys to want to come there. I think it'd be harder to get an East Coast kid to come all the way out west, Northwest, as a matter of fact, when we know they're all about building a brand. Dame has a brand, but like you said earlier, Dame is a Hall of Fame brand potentially. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to just get a solid free agent to come out there. That's a tough look for them. It means everything, but Portland is right now Dame, if we're being real. And like I said, just going back to the West in general, the powers that be are going to do their thing next year. Like I said, it all surrounds themselves around the Lakers and what happens there. And Portland is solid, but like you said, it's either this year or never with them. Do you think, I ain't going to say never, but it's going to be a hard road back. This is probably going to be one of the easiest trek to get there. Do you think they can steal this next game, though, in Milwaukee? That's the question I got. And of course they got to play it out. But it seems like right now Devin Booker's giving his all.
He is, although he did take 33 shots to get 40 points. But he was still over 50%. He was 17 of 33 from the field. So it was still good. That was just a well-played game where the Bucks were a little bit better.
Yeah.
When somebody asked me before the series who was going to win it, I said, well, I think the Bucks have the better team, but it feels like Phoenix's time. Well, it looks like the better team right now is winning out.
Mm-hmm.
Middleton had 29. Holiday had 27. But, I mean, you still got contributions on the other side. You still got 21 from Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton gave you a double-double at 20 and 10. Booker gave you 40 points. Problem for Devin Booker, I think, he only took 5 free throws in that game. The way he plays, he's not getting to the line.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting a whole lot of and-one opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 40 could be 50 on a more respectable basis if he was just getting in the mix a little bit more and not spotting up and taking jump shots instead. That said, you couldn't have asked for more than 40 from that guy or 20 from Ayton. They just didn't quite have enough at the end. It was 123-19. It wasn't 123-75. Phoenix is going to play hard, but you finally had a road team where guys showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of a couple of stars, you still had 27 from Drew Holiday. Great defense on Devin Booker and the alley-oop to Giannis, where he was asked after the game, so did you think you might have thrown that one too high on the alley-oop? And Drew said, no, he's a freak. I threw it as high as I possibly could. I knew he was going to bring it down, and that's exactly right.
Yeah. When you play with a freaking monster and a Monstar like that, there's certain things you got to be able to do, man. And that's what I'm considering the way his looked as opposed to who was it in game DeAndre Ayton when his got blocked that time. There's a difference in player right there. Giannis is a friggin' monster that was made up on a friggin' NBA 2K game, and everybody else is just playing their role. They say what they want to about Giannis though as of late, but he is killing it, man. When who was it? Keyshawn talking about that shoulder down type of player. Stop it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he was the only problem with him really still is he's never going to be that great outside, and he's never going to be a good free throw shooter. And he was 4 of 11 in that game. The Suns were 91% from the line on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks, because of him, the numbers look skewed. Everybody else made their free throws, and he didn't. But that's really the only knock. He played like a monster, unlike anything that was in Space Jam 2, based on every review.
Yeah.
That is not so good, Al.
Hey, I watched it. I thought it was a thorough movie for the kids. And like I said, I thought it was just thorough. It's not Jordan. And I might be full bias on that for sure because Jordan is, in the world of basketball, my GOAT. So there's nothing LeBron could have did. I didn't dislike it. My kids loved it.
I talked to two people that said LeBron looked awful in the first 25 minutes as a bad father and a very unlikable character. They were surprised that he greenlighted a spot that made him look that bad. And then I heard the last hour of it. I don't know why it needed to be 2 hours. The original was 127. The second is 2 hours. Of course, they're trying to throw every property in the background that they can. Stuff that doesn't even really make sense to be there is there. But the whole second hour was the game.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know if you need real time. I don't know if that game needed to be played in real time. But yeah, I mean, I guess it was for the kids. The only thing I was just wondering was, I don't know how many, I feel like it was made for people that saw the first one. It was made for people that are a little bit older in terms of it was a nostalgia deal. That's why it came back, is people wanted the nostalgia of it. So they're hoping that You then transfer that to your kids and say, this came out in 96 and I liked it and da-da-da-da-da-da. But I've got it on the watch list because I've never seen the original. It's like, all right, well, I'll watch 96. I don't know that I'll watch the new one. But
the new one to me definitely way better. But my kids were, I heard them
the new one better than the original?
No. 96 is definitely better.
Okay.
Just in general, I think. My kids, they actually seem like they loved it. And my nephew, too. So it's a catch-22 when it comes down to it almost. Like, either you do or you don't. But the kids seem to have loved it.
Well.
And they had everything that they want in it, too. E-gaming stuff, parental stuff, as far as, like, kids' dynamic. And you got to think, too, kids love LeBron just as LeBron is. And they've added a whole bunch of graphics and CGI and everything else
Which I wish they
around
hadn't
it.
done.
But to them, that sparked their eyes, though, that's the way I saw it.
Well, I'm glad the kids liked it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw what everybody else saw, though. Like you said, it was the early part with LeBron and his son. I was like, oh, okay.
615-737-1045. That's the telephone number, 737-1045. Delaney Walker talked on a podcast and said a lot. And we have thoughts on that. We've also got Bill Bender. We got Coach Mack. We've got Kayla Anderson coming up today. Busy show. Plenty of time for you again. The fam, give us a call, 737-1045. We'll come back and we'll start to talk about what Delaney Walker had to say about the city of Nashville and how it affected his career. Pretty eye-opening. Do you agree? We'll discuss when we come back. JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
When they talk Titans, you listen. The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3, 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's Schaefer.
R.I.P. Biz Marquee.
R.I.P.
Now it
Biz.
actually has, unfortunately, happened.
Unfortunately, man. Was looking at videos, some stuff he done in the past as far as helping other artists out, and everybody speaks about like his musical genius that he had inside. You know what I'm saying? The way he helped and cultivated other people's careers, and he gave Mace a big time song just out of the blue somewhere, man. It's cool hearing those stories, man. People getting their flowers before and after, man. It's cool, regardless.
Well, this song will never not be heard.
Ever. So easy.
Did the Titans have what Delaney Walker needed? It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 is owned, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. Sirius XM, Delaney Walker, saying a lot. Obviously, he says he wants to win a Super Bowl, so he still wants to play, which we already knew. And then he starts talking a lot about his status and his legacy. Do we have some of that audio? All right, let's play what Delaney Walker had to say. Here this is.
Delaney, I think the simple answer may be I just like to play, but I sit back and see a guy that's accomplished all that you have. Kirk mentioned the 3 Pro Bowlers, 3 Pro Bowls, 14 years. You played 1 game in 18. You played 7 in 19. You sat out last year. Well, what motivates you to want to play even more games going forward?
I want to win a Super Bowl, honestly. I feel like that helps you in your status as you retire in this game, and it's sad that that's something that you got to have to be recognized sometimes. And again, me being in Tennessee, I hate to say this, that hurts my value in any type of awards or accolades, because I did play in Tennessee, and you can look at some of the greats like Eddie George, Steve McNair, and them guys just not getting them coached yet, and it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl and they played in Tennessee. So I look at it, if I can win a Super Bowl, maybe that'll help me, and so you can go from there.
You know, I find it so interesting, and I love the honesty. In what way will it help you, other than legacy, which I think we all understand? But Delaney, in fairness, you know, outside of the quarterback position, Julio Jones may retire without a Super Bowl. We're not going to look at him any differently. You know what I mean? So in what way do you think it helps you? Why are you so motivated by just that?
Well, you say Julio, but he played in Atlanta. Look at Atlanta and their fan base. Look at the type of players that played in Atlanta, and look where they at. Now, when I say when you play in an organization like Nashville, it's because it's so small. Our fan base is not as great as some of these organizations that other players that play that been great in them organizations. They get them accolades. But when you play in Tennessee, not a lot of you don't get primetime games. You don't get a lot of people seeing your games, so you don't get mentioned a lot. So sometimes you don't get brought up in these conversations. But when you have a Super Bowl ring, they bring you up in these conversations.
First off, when you're comparing Atlanta's fan base to anybody else, that better be because anybody else is better. Because Atlanta is notoriously known to be maybe the worst pro sports city in America, not because of the teams, but because of the support. I lived there for a few years. I can vouch for it. When you say look at Atlanta and their fan base, what fan base?
It's bandwagon, if we're being real. It's who's hot. They're all over the Hawks because why? The Falcons were trash this past year. It's almost you got to take a step back and breathe when hearing that interview. I put in a YouTube chat, ouch. And not from what he said, but how he views Tennessee Titans' as fan base. I mean, I kind of get it, but it's still like, ouch. You know what I'm saying? You go ahead, Jay. I got a lot on this one, man.
Well, first of all, he's not a Hall of Famer.
I'm looking through.
I like Delaney Walker. You're not a Hall of Famer, man. Like, I can't even imagine Delaney Walker's name would be on a ballot. And it's not because he played in Tennessee. No. He was very good for 3 years. And that's kind of it. Like, I don't know. What he's basically suggesting is, even though I read a USA Today article says Walker isn't denigrating the Titans or their fans. You sure about that? I'm not saying he's denigrating the fans, but he's basically saying I played in such a small market, it hurt my chances to be a Hall of Famer since I didn't win a Super Bowl.
He's 23 on this list as far as all times tight end receptions. Above him currently is Zach Ertz is above him. Jared Cook above him. Vernon
That's the end
Davis.
of the argument right there. If Jared Cook's above you, you're not in the Hall of Fame.
Vernon Davis, just to throw that one more out there. And dog, that HOF comment could have been left out. I know I'm not a Hall of Famer.
He said.
Okay.
What did he say about Eddie and Steve? He said, "Me being in Tennessee, I hate to say this. That hurts my value in any type of awards or accolades because I played in Tennessee. You can look at some of the greats like Eddie George, Steve McNair, and them guys just not getting them coached yet. And it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl, and they played in Tennessee. I look at it, if I can win a Super Bowl, maybe that'll help me."
Didn't stop McNair from an MVP and Derrick Henry from Offensive Player of the Year.
Exactly. It's not stopping A.J. Brown.
If we're talking about small markets, it's as a fine line, I wish he would have been able to, like, put a divide in what he was trying to say, too. Yes, the Titans are a small market. So is Green Bay. Pittsburgh is a small market. Buffalo is a smaller market. We're being real. Jacksonville should be classified as a small market team. Carolina, big city, but new team, small market. He should have said as far as history, as far as anything like Green Bay's a small market, but they got Lombardis behind them. They got quarterbacks behind them. Pittsburgh is a small market, but they got Lombardis behind them. Like, even moving further, like, down the line, it's just like you got to find a better way to phrase what you're trying to say.
I wouldn't say Pittsburgh's a small market, but Green Bay qualifies.
Though. That's one thing we've always kind of said. You just got Pittsburgh and football, and that's it. As far as it's the same, I look at Pittsburgh's in the same boat as what Nashville is, almost in the sense of like football, other than the history of the game.
Well, I mean, markets,
they have the Penguins also.
Market size, though, Ramon. I understand what you're saying.
They're a lot bigger.
They're still a lot bigger of a market. But in terms of actual TVs that are being used.
Oh, well. He got a lot. He said a lot. Some truth. The Hall of Fame one, you throw that one out. Like I said, me being a former player, judging a player right now, I just got to I'm not a Hall of Famer. So I can say this, too. I've seen Hall of Fame type tight ends, though. I mean, we've seen them play either on TV or I've seen a guy that I play with, Heath Miller, is above him in yards. Heath killed it for an era, had a really good era there for a while. And he is like, what is Heath on this list? Like 12, 13? Jared Cook's above him. Heath Miller knows it. Like, he's a Pittsburgh legend. And sometimes I think that's what we got to look at ourselves as, like, am I a city legend? Like Delaney, before these comments, and he still may be, is a legend here in Nashville. Like y'all said, well, 3
people
years?
Liked him. I mean, people liked him during that time frame.
Yeah.
He was very good. Now, he benefited from the fact that there was nothing around him, so he was able to get a whole lot more receptions than he would have if he were playing right now, for example, because you would be looking at Julio, and you would be looking at A.J. Brown and all this, but Delaney Walker, and he wasn't really burying the team. It wasn't burying the Titans, and it wasn't burying the fans. What it was basically saying is, I played in a spot where the national guys didn't care, and because the national guys didn't care, I'm not getting into the Hall of Fame if I don't win a Super Bowl.
If he doesn't get – okay. But this goes – and to me, I think he is kind of judging the city a little bit because the one thing I told y'all in the Slack yesterday was, look, it's the players that make the team popular. If you're a hot team, case in point, Jacksonville is always a great case study. When they were fire hot, they were on primetime games like none other. What was that year, 17 and 18? It's the players that make it hot. That's the players that get you notoriety on those Sunday night, Monday night games. Aside from the Thursday nights, like you are the reason you get those primetime games. To his defense, though, I'll say his quarterback play wasn't what those other teams had. And the reason I kind of put more fault out on the players as far as like who's got a hot market and who's doing what, your performance, your wins and losses is what takes you further, is what get people talking about you. Those top 10 plays, yeah, that's fine. But if you consistently do that or win in those big matchups and not drop eggs, when you play against a type of team, when you play against a Cowboys team, when you play against, let's say, a Pittsburgh type team or a Green Bay or the Patriots, I just saw yesterday that I had no idea one of the worst losses in NFL history was the Patriots to the Titans. CBS posted that on their IG. When you have that type of stuff under your tenure while playing, That's what happens when you don't get those big time games, man. Yes, the legacy of an NFL team means a lot. But when you break down, okay, can this team get hot? Are they buzzing? Right now, Cleveland, they're getting primetime games because of who? The players. Baker, Miles, Jarvis. There's a bunch of A-type players on that team.
What I'm saying is he's not judging the team, and he's not judging the fans, except when he talked about the fan base, but that's because he misreads Atlanta, because he thinks Atlanta's a big city, because Atlanta is a big city, and it is a big market, but they don't support sports there. As someone that lived there, I can promise you, they do not and did not support there. He wasn't taking a shot at the city of Nashville. He was saying the national guys don't pay attention to the Tennessee Titans franchise. And because of that, everything else gets harmed. If he had done the same thing in Philadelphia, he feels like he would be closer to a jacket.
No, not with those numbers.
Oh,
exactly.
So he's as close as I am
Sorry.
to a jacket.
Exactly.
Now, you want to make that argument for Stephen Eddy?
Yes.
That's a little
You
more
can make it.
reasonable. That's a little more reasonable.
It's more reasonable,
Yes.
even though we understand, and you can look at the numbers and explain why those things haven't necessarily happened, but you could certainly make a far better case for them than you can for Delaney Walker.
Yes.
Apparently, Mike is awake. Because of Mike, Cleveland. Mike, what's up?
What's up, yo?
What's
Good
up?
morning.
What's up, Mike? Good morning.
Hey, yo, I was calling to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit for Delaney. Jay, I agree with you. I don't think he was deliberately, calling out the team and the fan base. I think he was just saying what we all been saying year after year as far as national media. And I want to get y'all's opinion on this too. And I don't want to get too back into the political side of it, but Delaney did come out and try to, was speaking on with Kaepernick and taking the knee as far as, what he believed in as, trying to say his piece and make his, that's the word. And, and what is a lot of Titans fan base do? They came back and they kind of split on him. They came back and kind of was trying to say you can get off the team and we don't want you. And like Mon pointed out, like we all should remember Delaney put us in the spotlight with his play and the person that he was in the community. And when it was time for the fan base to kind of stand up and ride with him, they did. I mean, not the majority did. Kind of just, was like, we don't want you, we don't need you, you need to stand up. So Delaney, as far as with everything he said, is everything we've been saying, and that was also his feeling on the fan base. And he didn't get petty about it. He didn't say they suck. He didn't say, well, they didn't have my back. He said everything the fan base has been saying and how maybe it could hurt him. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't. But I think at the same time, our fan base let him down after he did so much. So that's my 2 cents on it. And I'm going to get up off here and listen to y'all's opinion. Much love, always. July 31st, we're going to be kicking it for the fans.
There we go.
All right, Mike. One thing that you can say about the fans, it wasn't really even a running joke. It was just a running observation. Pittsburgh had more fans in Nissan Stadium than the Titans did. When big-time teams came in, they would have more fans. Buffalo have more fans than the Titans did. That was a common thing, which would lead you to think, all right, when they're winning, you show up. When they're not, you don't nearly as much. I mean, it was true for the Predators for a while. You had more Blackhawks fans. You had more Red Wings fans. You had certain franchises that would just buy those tickets on the secondary market right off the local guys. Now, when they're good, it changes up, and you have one of the best atmospheres there. So is there something to that? Potentially. But I think where he loses the thread is where he really invokes the Hall of Fame at all. Yeah. If you just say, hey, a lot of people didn't notice the contributions I made to this team because I played in Nashville. And that's an indictment on them, not an indictment on Nashville. That's the way you say it. Just like they should have been paying attention to what we were doing. We were building something. Mention a couple other guys, Lawan or whoever else it is that was there around that time when it was still kind of barren, but it was on the way. Now you're like, and now they got AJ and Derrick Henry, and they're starting to pay more attention. But there have been a lot of talented players that haven't gotten their run because they've been there, as opposed to saying, I'm not going to get a jacket because I toiled away in Nashville for X amount of years. That's where I think he makes the mistake.
Yeah, it is. And if I can answer Cuzzo Mike's statement, about him supportive caps and stuff like that, I'll say this. During that time, there was a lot of players. And there was a few on our team. We had probably one of the biggest blow-ups around the anthem and support and injustice and everything else. It had to have been one of the biggest blow-ups in all the NFL. And we as a team took a lot of backlash. That was one of the first times in my career ever at any level, at any single level I had played for. During that national anthem and we had in Chicago and just during the whole back and forth politics and sports, that's the first time ever in my career I had ever let an inside entity of any sort affect me in a game. That game was a blur to me. That game was a blur to me and my teammates. Looking back on that game, us losing that game was the reason we didn't make the playoffs, and we should have beat that bad Chicago team in Chicago, but there were so many distractions around that. After the game, and is documented, I stayed afterwards and answered questions for probably 30-plus minutes, which is a long time post-game, just speaking about everything around the game because why? There was so much outside the game that took a lot of my focus, my teammates' focus away. And after the game, following the press, you got to deal with social media too. And a lot of guys took a lot of flack. We were just called everything except for a child of God. And I'll say this, we bounced back in a big-time way. Still I don't think we made the playoffs that year or either first-round bounce. But a lot of guys still were able to hold their own. They played well in other different fashions. And I'll say this, winning and making plays kind of cures all. We saw that when Nike did the campaign for Tiger, when he came back after getting golf clubbed by his wife. Winning cures all. People support you. Delaney issue was if Cousin Mike, if you say the Titans fans didn't support him, I got to look at his timeline of when he played. His best years was 15, 16, and 17. The stuff that happened was like in 17 and 18. When you say Delaney probably feels like he didn't get supported, well, he went to IR in 18 and 19. He really had no ways of getting himself back on the field. So if there's any bitterness in him towards the fan base and the supporter, you think there is, I just think it was bad timing on his end because he was good enough for sure. Here he was in year, 10, 11, 12, or 9, 10, and 11 making Pro Bowls. So he was still playing well. It's just a factor of it was too little too late at that time. I didn't realize, but Delaney had been in the league for 14 years.
Yeah, he sat behind Vernon Davis for a very, very long time. And if you really want to point out why you're not getting a jacket, it's because you sat behind him for so long. That's why when the Titans got him, I said, I like this move. The times I saw him on the field, he looked like he was good. He just couldn't get out there. But it's not because he played here he's not getting into the Hall of Fame.
No.
He actually has a better chance because he played here because he was the guy. He wasn't just he wasn't a cog in a larger machine where you don't get any credit. It was him and Jarrell.
Yeah.
It was.
So I'm an outsider. So take my
let's go to break.
Let's
go to break. So we stay on our clock. When we come back, you just put a pin in what you said. I'm going to come back and toss it right to you, and we'll get there. 615-737-1045. 737-1045. Your thoughts on Delaney Walker. We'll take those. A lot of them coming in right now on YouTube, where you can find Zone TV on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, and Periscope. And you can find us next here, JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone.
No one knows Titans football more than Buck Rising. The Buck Rising Show. This morning starting at 10 on 1045 The Zone.
Hey, it's JMart. Next time you're at home, look around, see if you're noticing things that look off. Maybe your house is actually trying to tell you something. Your doors and windows are sticking. Your drywall separating, your basement walls bowing, your chimney's leaning. Maybe you got some cracks in your bricks, some cracks in your concrete. All of these signs of a possible foundation issue with your home. When it comes to foundation repair, nobody does it better than my good friends at United Structural Systems. USS has been doing this really well since 1994. That's nearly 30 years now of off-the-charts service, integrity, and reputation, plus an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, and they're here. They're locally owned. They're not a franchise. It means you're helping out our community, and they've been helping out our community for such a long time. That's an easy decision. They can also have time. They can customize a solution for you for each homeowner depending on your specific needs. USS will give you a detailed free estimate before you have to make a decision, always with them. And as always, also, you don't pay until the work's done, and they know that you are happy. Over 20,000 satisfied customers can tell you. You can feel good about calling United Structural Systems. 615-227-2275. That's 227-2275. Or visit them online at ussTN.com. United Structural Systems.
Switching your car insurance to Geico is both easy and could save you hundreds. It's the best of both worlds. Like a corgi who does household chores. A chorgi.
the conspiracy theory, there's always been the thought that guys don't end up on all-pro teams because they played here. That's always been talked about. But there is just a constant, let's walk around and have a little bit of a victim mentality when it comes to some of the bigger names that have played over the last 10 years or so with the Titans. It's like they always want to excuse it away, or they want to explain why they're not first-team All-Pro, or why they didn't make a Pro Bowl, or whatever else. And then, look, columnists are paid to spill whatever they can find. And so then they write and say, who was snubbed? It's the same thing as Ryan Tannehill being left off the top 10 list. It's always going to be the same argument. Whether or not the numbers back it up, it's always going to be, well, look where they played. Look how many primetime games you didn't have, da-da-da, all this kind of stuff. Now, if he had stopped there and not made the Hall of Fame argument, it would have been better.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say before the break?
I was just going to say this, man. And my time in playing against the Titans and just watching Titans as I grew up to it, let's not forget, I'm from here also. I've seen this team, but during my pro career, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention unless I was actually playing against the Titans or something that mattered, if they had made a big-time game. My thing has always been this in watching the Titans for the most part. It's always kind of just been a woe is me attitude sometimes, even with the players. And I say that sometimes because when it comes down to it, when we've played against them, like they always had this chip on their shoulder like it was little dog going up against a big dog, when all I ever looked at like it's the Titans and we got to go out and win. Like there was more chippiness during those games to just, you can see like personal vendettas, like you almost had to psych yourself out to play against us sometimes. I'm just like, well, why is it so edgy whenever we play you guys? And I see now it's almost as if you keep the mentality that you're always less than when you're one of the 32 teams in the NFL. The Titans, my thing has always just been this. If you play, everything take care of itself. That's what you got to – I listed a group of players, and you just tell me what you think. Like I said, Pac-Man is as good as he was. Always kind of play with that chip on his shoulder, probably because he was in Nashville also, and he's just a Pac-Man. Hainsworth, same guy, always the extra stuff on the field. Vince, we saw how that turned out. Looking at Lindell, like the way he was on the field, like it was always other stuff other than the game. Locker just didn't pan out. Warmack didn't pan out. And just it was always extra stuff on the field that took away from what the actual game is. If you want the respect, you got to go out and beat people. You can't just talk about it just, hey, it's because I'm in Nashville. Like, again, I mentioned Green Bay, and I know that might be a bad example because they got a long history, but Bakhtiari is a guy that gets snubbed. But if you want to talk about Hall of Fame, Bakhtiari is probably going to be a guy that's going into the Hall of Fame because the All-Pros is what matters when it breaks down to it. Delaney got noticed nationally by Pro Bowl voters, by the fans. He killed it for a 3-year stretch, and that's fine and dandy. I'm looking at Jimmy Graham's accolades. What is he, 7-time Pro Bowl, 6 or 7-time Pro Bowler and like first team All-Pro? Like when you're an All-Pro, that's the justification. Bakhtiari for years has been snubbed as a Pro Bowl vote. But on the back end of that, he gets the All-Pros. Schwartz has been the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You get snubbed on the Pro Bowl stuff, but where it matters is the All-Pros. I'm looking at a guy, what makes a Hall of Fame career? I think you got to have about 6 years of killing it. Like Pro Bowls, and in those 6 years, you got to have at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 first-team All-Pros to get you say, hey, that's an era of killer. Terrell Davis, Hall of Fame running back. What was he, 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
In those 7 years, he had, 5 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pros.
The other thing past that is Elway couldn't win a Super Bowl in the 80s because they didn't have a run game. I love Sammy Winder as a Broncos fan, but he wasn't the same. When they got Terrell Davis and the offensive line coach that passed away just a couple of weeks ago, who started the zone blocking scheme up front, you added that to TD. It was Terrell Davis that was the thing that put the Broncos over the top. He was the reason, or certainly one of the big reasons they won 2 Super Bowls. So to that point, not only did he have the All-Pros, he also helped win Lombardi trophies.
Yes. That and okay, let's take another market. San Diego when it was there. They got trumped by a lot of other markets. I would think I don't know how you view San Diego as a major market or not, but look at the players though. Phillip Rivers, you had a steady quarterback. If there was any detriment to Delaney's career, it was probably the quarterback. Now that you got a quarterback, and this is why I say stop playing the double dutch when it comes down to Ryan Tannehill. Y'all need to be all in because now you got somebody that's in the head of this organization that can get you over the hump at least. Like you said, might not get all the national praise that you want to, but it comes down to having somebody that say, hey, look, we can walk into the stadium and I'm backing him up as my offensive lineman because I know he's the reason we're going to win. I don't care how you view him or not. That's the way it's got to be looked upon when you got a guy like Ryan Tannehill because we've seen all the other guys before him. Delaney probably wishes he played with a quarterback like Ryan Tannehill.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he looks at this Titans team and says, boy, I sure wish I was playing with these guys instead of the ones that I was playing with. Again, his numbers wouldn't be as impressive if he did.
Because of
Derrick Henry's team.
22.
And also 11.
Yeah.
And now 2.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of other people competing for the ball that would get it now. I mean, Delaney Walker was also playing when Bishop Sankey's running the ball and all this stuff. Like, it was a totally different situation for him. In some ways, it benefited him because he could be the guy and stand out. He's like, man, we got Delaney, though. What Delaney Walker was, he has had a solid career, solid NFL career. He was a warrior. He made tough catches. He was very good for the Tennessee Titans while he was here. I thoroughly enjoyed watching his career.
Yeah. It was solid.
Not a Hall of Famer.
He was a big board guy for us, but like we put our best linebacker on him, like, hey, shut him down.
615-737-1045. 1 hour's down that fast. I see Michael DeJesus hanging on line 1. I think he might have celebrated a birthday based on what I saw pop up in the chat. So happy birthday, Mike. And for your birthday, we'll allow you to hold on until after the headlines, and we'll bring you in off the second hour. More, we can continue to talk about the Delaney thing because we know there's a lot here, and there's a ton coming in on the chat. We'll get some of the best comments and a top observation for you after the headlines, 104.5 The Zone.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
We're live at SEC Media Days, presented by NewBrakes.com. Also, transportation provided by JMart and Ramon. Thanks, boys.
There we go. And the Boom Boom Room. By the way, on Monday, it's LSU, South Carolina, and Florida.
This will be my first trip down to SEC Media Day as a person of the media. I'm a little nervous.
Journalist.
You're nervous? Journalist? Is that what?
Tune in.
Today, starting at 3 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Block the left lane. Stop traffic from Old Hickory Boulevard. Downtown, 24 westbound at Shelby Avenue. We've got a crash. And Antioch, Murfreesboro Pike at Nashville Boulevard. There's an accident with emergency crews on the scene. This report brought to you by Echo Park. You don't want to pay more when you don't have to. At Echo Park Nashville, they echo that. Their vehicles are always the lowest price, up to $3,000 less than their competition. Find your next vehicle today at echopark.com. Echo Park Automotive. Lower prices, higher quality, better experience. I'm Christy O'Brien with traffic on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
From the WinBet studio, win with WinBet. WGFX Gallatin, Nashville. Titans training camp starts July 27th on your home for Titans football. Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 7:02. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. 24-year-old American Colin Morikawa won the Open Championship in golf on Sunday. It is his second major championship victory. He fired a final round 4 under to finish 15 under for the tournament. Defeated Jordan Spieth by 2 strokes. Predators recently traded away Victor Arvidsson. They've also now shipped off defenseman Ryan Ellis. He went to the Philadelphia Flyers for center Nolan Patrick and defenseman Philip Myers. The Preds then sent Patrick to the Vegas Golden Knights for center Cody Glass. The expansion draft for the NHL Seattle Kraken is this week. The Predators decided to not protect Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson, though they carry heavy cap hits. Polly Yarncroke, Colton Sissons, and Nick Cousins. Major League Baseball. Rays defeated the Braves 7-5. Tampa rallied with 4 runs in the 7th inning to get the win. Atlanta 2 games below 500, but only 4 games out of first place, trailing the Mets in the NL East. Sounds lost to Louisville yesterday 4-2, losing the final 3 games of that series after winning the first 3. The NASCAR, Eric Almirola won at New Hampshire. That qualified him for the playoffs. And on Saturday, Hani Mukhtar set an MLS record on posting a hat trick in the first 16 minutes of Saturday night's game between Nashville SC and the Chicago Fire FC. The boys in gold won 5-1 at Nissan Stadium. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. 104.5 The Zone.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Now it's time for Jason Martin and Vol for Life Ramon Foster.
Powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors.
Together, they are JMart and Ramon on 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone, powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors here in Nashville, along with 11-year NFL veteran and Ball for Life Ramon Foster, Jonathan Schaefer. I'm Jason Martin. Bill Bender of the Sporting News. We'll talk college football, probably a lot of SEC. With the SEC Media Days happening, 3HL is down there covering it. Others from the station are also going to be hopping down there, and we'll be chatting with them as the week continues and things are said or not said.
Either way.
Probably a collection of both. We said we would get to the birthday guy, Michael DeJesus, who celebrated a birthday, I think, over the weekend. Happy birthday, Mike.
Happy birthday, Mike.
I appreciate it. My birthday is actually today.
Oh, sorry. Well, even better. We weren't late.
Yeah.
That is a demerit.
Yeah, you aren't. Hey, guys. So on Delaney, so first of all, I got to agree with what Cousin Mike said. He said a lot of what all Titans fans been saying for the longest. But this is where he's wrong, is because he's nowhere near being as great as he was for us for 2-3 years. He was our offense. If he wasn't a Hall of Fame talent, he would have had all eyes on Tennessee by himself. That's like saying if Julio Jones would have spent his whole career here in Tennessee, he wouldn't be a Hall of Fame talent because he was here in Tennessee, which wouldn't be true because he's a Hall of Fame talent. That's like saying Peyton Manning, if he would have been a quarterback for Tennessee his whole career, he wouldn't be a Hall of Fame talent, which is not true. So that's where he lost me, and he still did the most for this organization for a hot little minute when we didn't have nobody else. But I just think he's dead wrong on that. So.
Okay, appreciate you, Mike. So one thing I will say about Julio, and who was the other guy that you mentioned?
You talking about Steve?
Oh, yeah, I guess you mentioned Peyton there.
Yeah, Peyton.
Now,
Peyton, yeah.
If you want to give Delaney Walker a little bit of grace here, Julio did play with Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely helps.
Yeah.
Delaney Walker's quarterback situation didn't help him. But it's a double-edged sword because what did help him is not having a ton of first ballot Hall of Fame wide receivers all over the place or somebody else that was going to take the shine. Who was getting the credit? I mean, Delaney was getting a lot of the credit.
Yeah.
He would have been, let's be real, he'd have just kind of been a guy if there had been a lot of other stuff around. I mean, you looked at his numbers. You're still trying to figure it out. Now, we all saw it a lot closer than you did because you were playing elsewhere, but he's just he was just a good football player. Like, that's just the truth. He was a solid football player. That doesn't mean Hall of Fame. It just means, solid career. There's a lot of dudes in the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NHL and the PGA, everything else, that were good.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of, when somebody says Delaney Walker, what do? Give him a thumbs up. Be like, good player. Hall of Fame, thumbs down. Like, I mean, I don't know what he could have done.
And to his I don't know what point he was trying to make by saying, that maybe he was trying to say if he'd have been in one of those other bigger market teams or a team that was on, primetime games, he would have had a better quarterback. Maybe that's what he's not trying to do. It's crap on his quarterback. 2014 final roster for the Titans as far as quarterbacks: Zach Mettenberger, Jordan Palmer, and Charlie Whitehurst. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot to work with right there. Wide receivers: Chris Durham, Derek Hagan, Rico Richardson, Nate Washington. Shout out to Nate, and Kendall Wright.
Oof.
Wasn't a lot. The offensive line: Taron Jones, Levitri, Lawan, Jamon Meredith, who I play with, Eric Olsen, know him.
Levitri, I mean, they paid Levitri out of Buffalo, and he came here and he just wasn't the same guy. It's like when Alteron Werner left here and went to Tampa Bay and just wasn't the same guy.
Wasn't the same guy. I mean, Chris Spencer, Byron Stingley, what was this, Svitek, and Chance Warmack. Svitek. Some solid players that I know of, but he was the guy. Delaney was the guy on this team, and rightfully so. He got all due, too, as far as him. I think that was the first year he was starting to become a breakout player. 2014, I think he had like 800 yards receiving in 2014. He had 890. The next year, he got his first 1,000 in 2015. So he was becoming a guy coming from San Francisco. And to that same point, though, Jay, about him sitting behind Vernon Davis in San Francisco, I mean, he was still pretty much youthful if he wasn't tight end number one out there.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of years left, which is why he ended up still ascending when he got to the Titans. 15, 16, and 17 were his best years. 18 and 19, Father Time always gets you. That's 2 years back-to-back IR. And now he took last year off, and he has the ability to come back this year. What is his age right now? He'll be 30 what?
He'll be 37 when the season starts.
30, yeah, he's 36, 341 days today. I mean, okay, now let's take away from the Hall of Fame thing. Whether he was trying to make that point or he got boxed in the corner when it comes down to it. As far as Nashville goes, Nashville has grown a whole lot since 2017. I think we all can agree on that. As far as population, as far as just build, as far as just everything around this city. You mentioned Nashville, and people raise their eyes now like, oh, back then, let's say 15, 16, 17, I don't think it was still the same case when it comes down to the national exposure. I think the productions, as far as NFL Network, as far as ABC, Fox, they want to be here. ESPN, they don't mind being here now. That draft, and since we were talking about this as far as Pekka, what hockey did to bring the draft here as far as now the national recognition on TV for what the Titans have, it all comes down now to putting it down on tape. Putting it to where, like we said last year, not dropping a game to Green Bay in a primetime game. In a primetime, slotted game. Not dropping to Cincinnati when you know you're supposed to blow that team out of the water. A lot of stuff he's complaining about, I think, again, goes back to the players. If a team sucks, guess what? That team ain't going to be on TV, period. So if you're 9-7, and I know the whole joke, everybody talked about Coach Fisher. Retire his, put him in the Ring of Honor on 8-8. Why? Because he used to getting 8-8 records. Well, when you have those type of records and you don't beat the big-time teams, you can't, Delaney, complain about your team not getting national recognition because you are the product on the field. Now, you can complain about the front office or coaches or the scouting department. Well, hey, y'all should have got better players to surround me with. Y'all knew I was a really good talent. Build around me. Well, you are a tight end. And right now, if you're not Kelsey, if you're not Kittle, Waller, like you said, he killed it for a little while. But you got to be able to be the reason why you're getting primetime games. The players is why. I don't care how much trouble a guy gets into. I do care. But when it comes down to, man, I need my recognition, respect me, and, dog, show me on the field. That's what it comes down to. Show me you deserve to be on TV. Because if it's worthy and you got the star power, we gonna find a way. We're going to market you however we need to. Heck, like you said, you got the biggest public appraisal it was to a guy like myself, and that's the Pro Bowl. That's voted on by the fans. That's voted on by the players. Now, when it comes down to all pro, that's the sports writers and coaches and front office and GMs. That's a different kind of accolade right there. But this woe is me and little brother syndrome, you got to throw that out the door, man. Everybody fights that stigma.
I'm looking at 2016 tight ends right now. Gronk, Greg Olsen, Zach Ertz, Jason Witten, Jordan Reed, and then you got some other guys. And Jimmy Graham, even though Jimmy Graham, this is when he went to Seattle and wasn't doing a whole lot. But then you look at some of the other guys. Antonio Gates at the end of his career. Benjamin Watson, who was a pretty good, serviceable guy for a lot of teams. Kelsey, a young Travis Kelsey. Brent Selleck, Kyle Rudolph. Some of the guys are still playing. Now, does Delaney fit in with that mix? Yeah, sure he does. Who had a better career, Greg Olsen or Delaney Walker?
Probably Greg Olsen.
Yes. And look, Greg Olsen to me was a very underrated player who dealt with injuries. But when he was healthy, he was good until the very end. That dude in 2015 had 77 catches for 1,104 yards and 7 touchdowns. And had played in 142 consecutive games prior to then starting to get hurt. But had a wonderful career. When you look at rookie Marcus in 2015, Delaney caught 94 passes for 1,088 and 6 touchdowns. That's good.
Well,
1,000-yard tight end receiver is very good.
Really good.
Especially when you got no wide receiver.
Yeah.
But I think the problem here is he went too high.
Yeah.
With his comments. And so you lose any of the nuance of what he was saying in the weeds. We should also mention Cousin Caden's birthday today as well. So you got Michael DeJesus and Cousin Caden, who killed it on the playlist on Friday.
Absolutely.
2 of the fam celebrating a birthday today. Things happen in threes. We about to get another one?
I don't know.
Somebody else about to say it? Somebody else about to lie? We got Bill Bender of the Sporting News coming up on the other side. We'll shift and talk some college. We'll talk some SEC and some other things happen around the landscape. If anything has raised his ire about NIL, how about $10,000 a piece to 2 Texas A&M players to do interviews for TexAgs.com this season? That is the first one by a media company to do exclusive content for them while playing at A&M. That, to me, I'll be curious to get Bill Bender's thoughts on that, and we will when we come back here at JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
So, chatting Titans? Well, it's our favorite pastime. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans radio, 104.5 The Zone.
It's JMart. Have you thought about taking your career in the trades to the next level? And I talked to Lee Company on Friday. Boy, they really are hiring, and they have a home for you. You should consider working for Lee Company. Right now, hiring for plumbers, for electricians, for HVAC techs, for handymen, and we're talking all levels, all locations. If it's a skill set that you don't have yet, how about free training through Lee Company University? And even if you just need to sharpen up on the skills a little bit, or you've been a little rusty, you had to do something else during the pandemic, whatever it might be, Lee Company's ready for you. They got offices, community offices all across Middle Tennessee. That includes Southern Kentucky. It includes Northern Alabama, which means you can choose to work close to where you live. And when we start talking about Lee Company, we're talking fantastic benefits. I already mentioned the Lee Company University free training. They're going to make sure that you're set up for success. Plus, Lee Company's company culture is so positive. The company is always on the move. It's always expanding. You always have a new place that you can go. No ceiling above you. This is a wonderful place to make a job home. And maybe it's a time for a change, or maybe you've been out of work a little bit. Lee Company could be the answer. I want to see you do it. LeeCompany.com/careers. Go there today. LeeCompany.com/careers. Catch up on all the details there and start considering a move to Lee Company. As much as they can do for your home, think about what they can do for your family right now. LeeCompany.com/careers.
Hit the jackpot on Vegas-sized thrills at Oak Grove Gaming. Just a quick spin from Nashville off I-24. Win big
Your home for Titans football, 104.5 The Zone.
JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. 11-year NFL veteran and Ball for Life, Ramon Foster. Jonathan Schaefer. I'm Jason Martin. We'll get back into the Delaney talk, certainly. And we got Coach Matt coming up in the next hour. I do want to get his feelings on it. I want to see what he might have to say about it. Still certainly a big show. And Kayla Anderson in the final hour, we'll certainly talk to her. We want to talk some college, though. SEC Media Days and Media Days in general are around the corner. SEC Media Days are happening in Hoover with 3HL down there for a couple of days. Certainly you won't want to miss their broadcast. Should have some outstanding conversations. This should be a good one, too. Bill Bender of the Sporting News, our good friend. Bill, what's going on?
Good morning.
Hey, not much. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty well. So, Media Days. How much do you get out of Media Days, Bill?
Well, I mean, I'll watch, and, I'm going to Big Ten on Thursday. So, with Big Ten, ACC, and SEC all being this week, it creates excitement to me because once these are over, you have about a month, and then we're kicking the football off. I don't know how much coaches and players really enjoy them. I don't think they do, but it is a chance to get around the same people that you like to cover the sport with.
So, do you have any memories of Media Days past, Bill? Anything that's been said that you actually remember? Because a lot of it to me is just kind of a wall of noise. Nobody really wants to say anything. Maybe you get something from one of the student athletes. I put student in asterisks right now with everything happening with NIL and all. But do you remember anything that stands out? Some coach that said something that caught you off guard that maybe turned into a pretty good piece or turned into a piece of content?
Well, I mean, I was there a couple of years ago when Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Brett McMurphy report happened, and then I just remember getting in the car and calling my wife and saying, I'm probably going to be busy this month because being that close to Ohio State, knowing that more was to come from that story. So you have moments like that, and I think that's pretty much what coaches try to avoid. They don't want a moment like that where you remember that and then it's going to be replayed over and over again. But in general, I mean, like you said, it's a wall of quotes. You can count how many times they say the word culture and that kind of stuff. But
just in general, is there anybody you're excited to see? I think the guy that I'd most likely want to interview is just Odron. I don't know if it's the sound of his voice, or if I don't know if it's just the fact of how he's going to be able to bounce back after the year they had last year.
Yeah, he's going to be the focus today for sure. I think he opens the afternoon session. Obviously LSU had a very rough year, but they're coming off a year before that was a very awesome year. So it's almost like they did a 2-year reset from where they should be. So I think they're definitely the team to watch today, with the SEC being the only media day that's going on today. I think LSU definitely will be the focus. I think they're a very talented team as well. And like you said, his voice makes it that much more interesting. Sometimes you 100% don't know what he's saying.
Across the, I guess it's one thing you guys can figure out is, what are these coaches like in real time? You got Bill O'Brien, former NFL coach, that's Alabama offensive coordinator, and it's a multitude of schools that have new head coaches. Brian Harsin, Josh Heupel, Clark Lee is another guy. Shane Beamer's another guy. This may be one of the biggest turnovers we've seen in the SEC. Of those guys, who are you most looking forward to speaking to about what they have in front of them?
Well, I mean, Josh Heupel in Tennessee. I mean, one there, and obviously a lot of coaching turnover. New athletic director, new coach with a pretty good record too. Heupel did a nice job at UCF, and really the offense was awesome. He did a good job of taking what Scott Frost had and kept it rolling. So I think he's a guy to keep an eye on this week. Clark Lee as well. Knows these things, but does he maybe give that program a little bit of a charge in what is definitely the most difficult job? I mean, you could make an argument that the Vanderbilt job is more difficult than Tennessee, maybe not based on expectations, but based on the ability to have success.
Bill, what do you think about LSU, Auburn, Florida? These are all, there's a lot of transition happening. Coach O needs a good year so that people stop calling him Gene Chizik for what happened last year. Auburn, speaking of Chizik, you just mentioned Harsin, but totally new situation there. And then at Florida, they lost a lot of talent. But some guys kind of came out of nowhere last year for them that they have already lost. So how do you assess those three teams? We already know about Alabama. We already think we know about Georgia. But how about this second group? And, of course, you can throw Texas A&M into that mix as well.
Well, I think LSU, obviously, it's a big season for them. Auburn's really interesting to me because, again, I just want to see how Brian Harsin works out. That wasn't – of all the guys, when you make those coaching lists, when a coach gets fired, I had Brian Harsin nowhere near that. I had no idea that's the direction they were going to go, but they did, and obviously, another tough job because you're in the same state with Alabama. You're trying to compete with Alabama, and not an easy job at all. So I think that's a big year for them. And then Florida, Florida's all right. 3 New Year's Days, 6 Bowls in 3 seasons. I think now they're trying to take that next step to playoff national champion, and that's not going to be an easy step for them.
What does Georgia have to say for themselves, man? For a team that we went, I mentioned it one other time, it's only been 2 schools that's pretty much been on top for a while, and that's been Georgia and Ohio State. When we're looking at just overall, whether recruiting, wins or losses, those 2 schools have been as steady as anybody over Alabama, over Notre Dame, over everybody in the country. What does Georgia have to say at these SEC media days to make you believe that they are a national championship contender and can actually win it?
Well, with Georgia, they're going to hear a lot of JT Daniels talk. Is he the quarterback to take them over the hump? What can you do to catch Alabama? I mean, you've done everything else. You've recruited well. You've done everything but beat them on the field. Kirby will probably take a lot of questions about Florida and that rivalry with Florida and how that's kind of become one of the most important games, if not the most important game of the SEC season, because the winner's going to Atlanta, and that's happened, I think, the last 6 years. So all of those things are at work for Georgia, and, of course, that big question about 1980 and when are they going to win that next national championship?
Mm-hmm. What's happening in the Big Ten? So you're attending Big Ten Media Days. You're up there. Obviously, Ohio State's always got buzz. Who else in the conference as we near the season do you feel like has some buzz, has a real shot to make some kind of an impact?
Well, I mean, Indiana's interesting because what kind of encore do they have with Tom Allen? They've got big games this year, play Cincinnati. They've got a chance to, they go back to that Ohio State game, and Michael Penix lit them up in the second half and gave them a chance. I think they'll be interesting. They'll be focused on Jim Harbaugh. There always is on media day. It's one of those deals where a lot of people are going to talk about Michigan and whether or not they can catch Ohio State. I don't think it'll happen this year either. But I think Ohio State in general just hangs over the entire conference. Their dominance, their incredible success, 4 straight Big Ten championships. I mean, somebody's got to catch them, and I'm not sure anybody's ready to do that.
Right now, Penn State has the number 2 recruiting class for the class of 2022. Franklin. I don't think he's on much of a hot seat, but what does he got to do to actually get more respect in that conference? Because like you just said, Ohio State is pretty much just doing what they want to. They're recruiting nationwide. They're getting the players that everybody wants. So what does Franklin have to do with the buzz that he can do? I mean, if for anything we know he's a heck of a recruiter, this is a factor of him getting the big wins or the playoffs.
Yeah, they have done a nice job recruiting. And on the field, they've probably been the closest competition to Ohio State the last 3 years. They are the last team not named Ohio State to win the Big Ten as well. So I think for him, it's the same thing as a little bit like Dan Mullen at Florida. And now it's about breaking through and getting to the playoff and, winning a Big Ten championship, continuing that recruiting that they're doing so they're able to match up on the field. I mean, they've played some incredible games with the Buckeyes, not last year, but the 2 years before that. And when they get to that point, they've got to be able to close. So I think Franklin, that they're the team probably in the best position to challenge Ohio State again in 2021. And I'm willing to look at last year and kind of give them a pass. It's one of those COVID seasons that you just throw away and move on.
Bill Bender of Sporting News with us. Iowa State, a lot of people talking about Iowa State. That's a team that has been coming, and that coach has been part of discussions for NFL teams and other college jobs for a while. He's still where he was. They have a lot of guys back. Is this the classic case of a team that has too much hype, or do you actually believe the talent is there to actually live up to the expectations?
All the talent is there. I mean, you look at our All-American and our top 40 list, and they have a linebacker, a running back, tight end, Brees Hall, Charlie Kohler, Mike Rose, and then Brock Purdy returns, a really good quarterback. And all of these guys elected to stay, so they've got the culture in place for success. Now they've got to beat Iowa. They've only beat Iowa one time under Matt Campbell. They've got to go through Oklahoma, which hasn't been easy for anybody in the Big 12. And yeah, the expectations are going to be high. It's probably going to be the first time they're ever going to be ranked in the preseason top 10. But Matt Campbell, I mean, I really like him. I like the job he's done. I think they're built to withstand it. And if you were looking for one of those not the usual suspects to make the college football playoff, I would say Iowa State's probably one of your best bets.
NIL, the one that just kind of caught me differently was the TexAgs.com deal, where they've got two players at Texas A&M. They're going to pay $10,000 to do exclusive content for this website. Did you see that one coming? Not specifically that, but something like this. And what do you think of this specific deal where a media company is actually paying college athletes for content?
Yeah, it's a gray area for sure. It's networks have been doing this, as a lot of people like pointing out on social media. But, it's just another one of those layers to this that, okay, they're doing that, but what happens if a coach doesn't want them to talk? And that's one of the wrinkles here that, so many colleges, they don't allow their freshmen to speak to the media. Now they probably do that. So coaches are going to have to concede some things. And that was one of the more interesting deals of all, even though, like I said, it's probably not new by any means. It's just that the money's going to the players now. And that's another one of these instances where boosters and companies can bypass the school and go straight to the athlete.
This is a different world, and truth be told, I'm kind of excited about it. But in the same sense, like, what is recruiting nowadays? Like, at this point, if it's not the coaches directly offering cash, I mean, it's got to be some booster that they have in their back pockets. Like, hey, I'd like you to meet this guy. There's an opportunity.
He happens to have a dealership here in town.
Yeah, even on the shortage of cars, we can get you that new Camaro. Like, is that where we're going? This is like blue chips all over, like in real life now.
A little bit. I mean, in recruiting this next cycle, I think watch the cycle after this one.
Okay.
See when it really takes into effect, and how they're adjusting with recruits from the class of 2023. And, there's a lot to like about it. There are, like I said, those gray areas that we haven't figured out yet. But, I mean, right now it's all systems go. Some of the deals that we've seen, I thought one of the other ones that was hit over the weekend was, Michigan, the jersey deal that they struck with the MDen and the players. That's a good one, though, because that one was often cited with the Fab Five and their jerseys being sold. Now Michigan players actually are benefiting off the likeness and the selling of their jerseys. And I think that's an example of where NIL hits the right way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's something that should have been done a long time ago. So good on them. And hopefully that opens up the floodgates there. And they should make a ton of money. And a lot of people have wanted those jerseys anyway. So now at least the money is funneling where it should. All right, Bill, how old are you?
I'm going to be 42 in October.
Okay, well, I'm 42 now. I'll be 43 in October. So one question we asked a couple of weeks ago and had some fun with was, because you're old enough to have remembered when this mattered, what song can you never hear without also seeing the accompanying music video that goes along with it? Back when music videos were this thing. A lot of kids listening right now don't know what we're talking about. But when music videos were just absolutely the thing, and you got home and you turned on MTV for a reason, not for reality TV.
Oh, the song that wedding, White Wedding with Billy Idol. That's how old I am. So like, that's one that came to mind. Any of those like mid '80s, and I'm thinking about the other one would be Epic with Faith No More.
Yeah, Faith No More. Yeah,
that's a weird, very strange music video, but anytime that song comes on, which is an awesome song, I always think of that video first.
See, I go even newer, I guess, just because when I was in middle school and high school is when I was really watching MTV, and I was thinking of stuff like November Rain from Guns N' Roses and even some like more obscure stuff. But you think about '80s, think about like Dire Straits, Money for Nothing, and stuff like that. Like back when I felt like music videos are a lost art. I had heard there's a YouTube channel right now that does nothing but play old music videos. 24 hours a day. If I find it, we could be in trouble, Bill, because
if I find that, I'm not going to get the SEC Media Day today. I'm just going to do my thing on that.
Exactly. Bill, it's always a pleasure, brother. Enjoy covering the Big Ten. I'm sure we'll catch up with you here again soon.
Hey, no problem, guys. Take care.
Yeah, you too. That's Bill Bender, Sporting News. He went further back than I thought, considering we're the same age. He went to Billy Idol, and he starts talking about the 80s. He was like 9 years old.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Hey, it resonates to him, man.
That question's still relevant, by the way.
I want to ask him. I got to figure out this kid that Ohio State has committed to, man. This kid with the crazy hair, the quarterback, Quinn Ewers. He
can work on the NFL Network one day.
Rated
kid with the crazy hair can work with dude with the ears.
You got to see it. Have you seen his mullet? Dude with the ears, dude with the hair.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Here's dude with the ears and dude with the hair and LaDainian Tomlinson. 615-737-1045, 737-1045. We'll jump back into the Delaney conversation. There's still a lot of you commenting on that on YouTube. Watch Zone TV right now. Twitch, YouTube, the fam is lit.
Yeah, they're going at it.
Right now in YouTube. If you've never joined them, go have some fun with them this morning. You can watch us live. Coach Mack still to come. Kayla Anderson still to come. Preds. Boy, that era is really starting to close now. Not just Arvidsson, but Ryan Ellis over the weekend. He moves on, and I don't think they're done. So we'll talk. There's just a lot to get to here, but we'll get back into Delaney's comments when we come back on the other side. JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
The 3HL. Here's what you missed.
Numerous emails to autograph a pair of my used shoes and send them to them.
You ever do it?
Hell no.
That's where we are today, people. What were they going to do with the shoes?
Ron, I don't even want to think about that.
The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3, 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's Ramon Foster. Have you ever heard somebody say, well, that's the way we've always kind of done things here? It's annoying, isn't it? You know there's a better, more effective way of doing things, but sometimes it's just hard to make that change. Open Door, though, has invented a whole new way to sell your home without the hassles of listings, showing, and all the unknowns that always seem to pop up. You can be amongst the hundreds of thousands of people who've already made the change to Open Door and have requested their offer. Go to opendoor.com, enter your address, tell Open Door about your home, and they will make a competitive offer in just a few minutes. A real offer. No repairs, no prep work, no showing, no hassle. I've been to the website and have experienced just how easy it all is. Get your free offer at opendoor.com/myoffer. Again, that's opendoor.com/myoffer. And offer eligibility varies, and Open Door is represented by Open Door Brokerage, Inc., license 02061130, and California, Open Door Brokerage, LLC, and its other markets.
Switching and saving with your local Geico agent sure is easy. As easy as tricking a dog by pretending to throw a tennis ball but then hiding it. Yes, he
Not voting on Hall of Fame either.
No, absolutely not.
The problem for Delaney is he went too far. He wasn't asked a question to get into this place. He just put himself into this place.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you parse the words. You can separate being a good player from being a Hall of Famer. You can even say, I feel like had I played in a larger market, I'd have gotten more attention. Because that absolutely is true.
Mm-hmm.
Attention is different than all pros, Hall of Fame jackets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
When Steve and Eddie were playing, they got a lot of attention.
Yes, they did.
I promise you they did. I didn't live here at the time, but I knew a whole lot about those two gentlemen.
Yes, I was here during that time. They got a lot of attention, a lot of praise, and to their credit, too, like you said. Steve, he's the league MVP, co-MVP when he got the MVP. Eddie had a very solid tenure, man. Getting Hall of Fame is hard, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the NFL Hall of Fame is the hardest one to get in. I don't know where that came from as far as, the justification for that. And like I said, honestly, if I take a step back and know that sometimes guys just don't want to throw people under the bus. And as far as, man, look, if I give up a sack, or if somebody say I gave up a sack and I know it's my left tackle or my center is the one that get it, I'll be the one. I'll take that heat. It's cool. And I think what's going on right now, we know Delaney wants to get back into the NFL. This is from the conversation we had with the Sirius, Sirius XM conversation he had over this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about, had he been somewhere else. I think what he really wanted to say, and this is me putting words in his mouth, I honestly think he wanted to say something about the front office more than it being a Nashville thing, more than it being, his teammates type of thing.
So what is he trying to say about the front office?
They didn't do enough to get players around. I'm looking at this draft right here from 2014, and I mentioned some of those names, and you're like, who was that? Marcus Mariota. His best year was 2015. Marcus Mariota was the number 1 pick for the Titans. Dorial Green Beckham, Jeremiah Potasi, Angelo Blackson. They drafted a fullback out of Alabama, Jalston Fowler, David Cobb. None of these guys I don't think is on the team anywhere else. I think Trey McBride might be out somewhere, and Andy – it was a bad job by the front office, I think is what he wanted to say, and they didn't build around him for what his talent was, or at least get him a quarterback. Looking at 2015, his best year statistically – I had over 1,000 yards. That team went 3-13.
Well, I mean, it was his best year because they literally had nobody else. He had to catch every pass.
He had to. And I think because he wants to get back in the league, he won't say it was the front office, because if he comes back to this Titans team, he's a different guy. Just by the players. Amy Adams-Strong, and we talked about this past week with Rhett. When I asked him, is this organization getting to the point to where they can – the plane has got to 30,000 feet. Can she cruise now? Of course, you got to make some stops here and there, but like this organization has gotten to the point to where they're ascending up. And if you put a guy like Delaney in it, I think he can still eat. It's a matter of if they want him. And that's the reason I don't think he decided to crap on the front office and what these teams, Jay.
Well, look, man, Rustin Webster just wasn't very good. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. He came on weekly. He came on the radio station weekly. He was a GM that did that.
Yeah.
And he was usually a good conversation. He was a nice man. He was not good in that role.
When you say he's a nice man.
The hit rate was bad.
No.
Doesn't matter if you hit me one home run that looks beautiful if you then go strike out 250 times.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't. I don't know. Like, there were some of those picks that you just mentioned where a lot of people liked those picks, and they just didn't pan out for whatever reason. Sometimes you get lucky on guys, and sometimes they let you down. At the time, how was he being evaluated? Maybe differently. Mariota was a rookie in Delaney's biggest year. Delaney was a safety blanket. What does a quarterback do when all else is wrong? You find the guy with the sure hands that's open. And Delaney Walker would turn around at his size and just say, throw it to me.
I got you.
And he was there. And he also took a lot of hits because he was doing that over the middle. That was the problem, is Delaney happened to play for the Titans when the Titans weren't very good. Yeah. When they had a number 2 draft pick where they could take Marcus Mariota right after Tampa Bay took Jameis Winston. That's the problem. He didn't play with this era. But if, again, I continue to say, if you play with this era, he's not catching 1,000 yards.
No. And just so his next best year, 2016.
Yeah.
John Robinson, first year as GM. The draft picks, Jack Conklin, all pro bowler. Kevin Dodd, he's out. You missed one. Austin Johnson, still in the league right now. Derrick Henry, Kevin Byer, all pro.
Yeah, no, John Robinson's better than Rustin Webster. That is the coolest take that you will hear today.
He caught it at the wrong time, man.
Agreed. Cousin Paxton.
What's up, Pat?
Before we get to the break, Paxton, what's going on?
Hey, guys. First of all, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit when I heard the name Rustin Webster.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Yeah, that's disgusting. So here's my thing about Delaney, okay? How many Pro Bowls has Delaney went to?
Three.
Three. Okay. And in those 3 Pro Bowls, how many of those Pro Bowls was in San Francisco where he spent 6 years?
None.
0, because he could barely get on the field.
None. Didn't get on the field. So you're going to sit here and crap on this organization, in a sense, by talking about, him not getting recognition here in Tennessee, and then in the same breath forget that you played in one of the biggest markets and one of the best, historically franchises in the NFL, in San Francisco for 6 years, man. Like, come on, dude. I was disgusted. Then he crapped on the fan base. Dude, there's no way he can come back here after that. I'm sorry. That's the truth. I'd rather you take a shot at the front office and say, you know what, the GM that year wasn't making good draft picks, than to actually talk about the people who packed the stands, the fan base. Like, dude, I'm done with it, man. I'm sorry. I wish him the best, though, man. No hate, and I appreciate what he did for us when he was here. But what he did in the interview, guys, that was uncalled for, man. So I'm going to hang up and throw the phone out the window, guys.
Paxton not thrilled. 615-737-1045. Your thoughts on what Delaney had to say. That's really the story of the day.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for Delaney because it is going to – some people are going to react the way Cousin Paxton just did. Because it's like he took – problem with him is he took a shot at the fan base by saying, oh, look at the fan base Julio's played for in Atlanta. Strike 1, 2, and 3. Indeed. We'll be right back. JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
The biggest topics. Will Bowling hosts the Zone Daily Podcast. Delivered every morning at 5 a.m. on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the entire Zone Podcast Network.
Mortgage interest rates are still sitting at an all-time low level, but they are slowly starting to go up. So if you've been sitting on the fence to get a refi, if you haven't gotten your pre-approved home locked in, let me tell you, now is the time. You got to stop waiting for a lower rate because they won't stick around much longer. Again, the interest rates are sitting in the low 2%, which means by refinancing your 30-year mortgage, the home loan expert can save you hundreds of dollars a month. This past year has been tough for a lot of different reasons. You know that. Everybody's going through something. Just trying to get over anything that's been in your way this past year. But your home is your biggest asset. And with the home equity so high right now, it's the perfect time to do a cash-out refi. They can lower your monthly payments, give you cash to pay off debt, and have you skip a few mortgage payments. That's how you continue to crush 2021 with a little less worry. So if you've been sitting at home, people are looking at new homes all the times, and the homes are selling fast, very fast in this area. Getting pre-approved, though, is key to finding your dream home. At thehomeloanexpert.com, they can lock in your interest rate, project your payments, and get you pre-qualified. So when you find that right home, you can submit that offer and close on it when you are ready. TheHomeLoanExpert.com are doing more home loans than ever and are closing purchases in less than 30 days. So don't wait. Visit TheHomeLoanExpert.com.
This is Boomer Esiason with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by AutoZone. Get the zone, AutoZone. As Casey Stengel once groused, can't anyone here play this game? Yesterday, the Pirates loaded the bases against the Mets in the home first. Kevin Newman hit a dribbler down the third baseline that started out fast.
Concrete problems don't get better with time. They get better with TFS. Call the foundation specialists today.
From the WinBet studio, Win with WinBet. WGFX Gallatin, Nashville. Titans training camp starts July 27th on your home for Titans football. Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 8:01. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Shea for SEC Media Days beginning today from Birmingham, Alabama. 3HL will be broadcasting live. You can tune in beginning at 3 o'clock for that live coverage. 24-year-old American Colin Morikawa won the Open Championship Sunday. His second major championship victory in his career. Fired a final round 4 under to finish 15 under for the tournament, defeating Jordan Spieth by 2 strokes. Predators had already traded away Victor Arvidsson during this offseason. They're continuing to reshuffle the roster. They traded defenseman Ryan Ellis to the Philadelphia Flyers over the weekend for center Nolan Patrick and defenseman Philip Myers. And then sent Patrick to the Vegas Golden Knights for center Cody Glass. Expansion draft for the NHL's Seattle Kraken this week. The Predators decided to not protect Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, Calle Yarncroke, Colton Sissons, and Nick Cousins. It would be unlikely that Duchene and Johansson would be picked by Seattle due to their cap numbers. Rays defeated the Braves yesterday 7-5. Tampa rallied with 4 runs in the 7th inning to get the win. Atlanta 2 games below 500. They're only 4 games out of first place in the NL East, trailing the Mets. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once. I'm home for the Titans and the Balls. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Now it's time for Jason Martin and Ball for Life Ramon Foster.
Powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors.
Together, they are JMart and Ramon on 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome in, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. New week, halfway home. Ramon said last hour, that was a fast hour. We end up saying that a lot here, and hopefully you do too. Hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio. We say that for a reason. Coach Mack will join us in the next segment. Game 5 went to the Bucks. Means they're 1 away from an NBA championship. Will they get it? We'll find out on Tuesday night. They'll be able to potentially do it in front of their home crowd after winning in Phoenix to take the 3-2 lead. And Delaney Walker has talked. Aaron Rodgers, nothing has happened. Somebody sent me a message. Focus sent me a message on Twitter and said, just calling you out for your wrong. And he posted a troll tweet from somebody saying that Aaron Rodgers was coming back to Green Bay.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a troll tweet.
Yes. I also said last week, if you don't recall, yeah, I know what I said in the past, so that's fine. I feel like he's coming back to Green Bay. If he's going anywhere else, and this is what I said before, if he's going anywhere else, he's going to Denver. But I think he'll be in Green Bay week 1. Even though some people are still saying nobody even close to him knows. But we're going to find out within the next 10 to 14 days, that story comes to a close. Whether it's him shutting it down for the year or him playing for Green Bay. I just don't know that they would trade him at this point in time, even if he wants out. I feel like you would do it after the season now. But we will see. There's no news coming up, and so more in 8 minutes. Basically is all we've got on Aaron Rodgers. But Delaney is certainly the story.
Mm-hmm. You see what on YouTube chat, which is where we're active right now. We're active on Twitter. We're active on Twitch also. But Mike says, how is Delaney's comment different from CJ, who said he wished he was playing for this Titans regime? That's what he should have just said.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the positive way to say, I hate that I played for a team that wasn't all that good.
Mm-hmm. This was also to what Cousin Paxton just said when he called in a second ago. When Paxton just called in, is the fact that he kind of, I really did. Right, wrong, or indifferent, however many times we have this conversation, it was almost an attack on the city as far as the support, as far as it not being big enough, as far as it just not being good enough, or the fact that maybe it wasn't supported the way he needed to be supported during his heyday. Is the way I look at it. I thought it was a shot, but everybody seems to take a shot when it comes to the Titans and their overall just national relevance when it comes down to this Titans team. I think this regime and what you said Chris Johnson has talked about anybody will want to play under this one right now. They've got everything moving in the right direction as far as the front office. You got a stable coaching staff. You got a stable quarterback, and you got stable players. You got all pro and Pro Bowl players on both sides of the ball. I would want to play, so it would have been better off had Delaney said that, I think.
Yeah, look, the message wasn't good here.
Mm-mm.
And Delaney's a guy that has been pretty smart throughout his career, and he's been savvy. He's done a lot of media, and he's always been outspoken. And here he was outspoken in a way that if you want to get butthurt about it, you can get butthurt about it.
Mm-hmm.
He left the door wide open to feel that way.
So also on the YouTube chat is where we're at right now. Ross Genovese asks, why does Ramon seem to be trying to explain what Delaney meant? How many years did Delaney play in the league? How many interviews he meant exactly what he said? He meant precisely what he said. And what I'm saying by this is when you're playing the game, you got to also play the game too. Meaning, he's still wanting to be active, Ross, is what I'm saying. He still wouldn't mind probably playing for this team here in Nashville. So in order for him to play on this team here in Nashville, I don't think he can crap on the front office. My thing is this, just looking back at those teams in which he killed it, they were bad teams, just bad overall records. Him and Jarrell Casey ate on those teams. They have some really good players on there. Courtney was there. He paid for Brian Arakpo to come here. Wesley Woodyard has been one of the better middle linebackers this team has been there. You had stability, but you didn't have wins. I think with the Titans fan base that he has behind him, his latest fan base, he can't say too much else about them as far as trying to get back into the league. I think what happens if you take a shot at the front office here, you get no shot. And I think by him trying to divert it to other reasons and saying, hey, look, we deserve more because we're the Titans and we've had other players that have come through like Eddie, like Steve, like himself, that there needed to be more respect on this team and he wants to be a part of it again. That's where I think he's coming from, Ross, when you ask me why am I trying to explain it to him, because he's got to continue to play the game until he gets back into the door. If he had said this Titans organization screwed us out of the best moments of my career here in Tennessee, then I think they close the door fully. We see him working out. We see him trying to get active. He's doing interviews. It's the same thing we saw other former players doing. They're trying to get back into the league. They do interviews. They show workout videos. And then next thing you know, you may or may not get a call. If he's completely out of the league, I think he says something else. He's one of the better Titan players in recent history.
I think one thing that he desperately wants to play. That's obvious, okay? I think he, in the back of his mind, whether this is what led to it or not, I don't even know if this was a conscious feeling. What he said about the Titans is kind of the insecurity of nobody giving him a shot right now and him wanting to play and saying, if I played in New York, if I played in L.A., if I played in Philadelphia, if I played in Pittsburgh, if I played in Dallas, one of those franchises, I'd be on a roster right now because people would have been paying more attention to me than they were when I was here. And then he extrapolates that further to say, I also would have been all-pro. I also would have been a 5-time Pro Bowler. All of these kinds of things. It all spirals, I believe, from the end of his career and him not willing to accept that yet.
And dog, that's hard, Jay. It's hard to walk away when either, and you got to look at his situation too. And Ross, I bring this up again because it's like he wants his foot in the door. Jay, you bring up another point. He basically was kicked out of the game, still what he thought was his best. His last 2 years playing was IR years.
Yes.
He was on IR. Those 2 years before that, he was still a Pro Bowler. So you got to ask yourself, when do you walk away? It sucks, but the game and Father Time going to always win. The only person, we saw Witten come back. He didn't look like Witten. I think the reason he comes back, okay, let's use Witten for instance. Number one, he's already a Hall of Famer. Let's get that out. And he hasn't won a Super Bowl. All right? The other part is, okay, the argument can be made, well, he played for Dallas. Dallas got him all kind of recognition. He's a namesake. Well, maybe he's just got a really good relationship with John Gruden. You know what I'm saying? And John Gruden is a guy that falls in love with certain type of players. We've seen that. We know that to be true. And maybe it's just that he has a relationship with a coach and maybe you don't. Maybe it ain't Witten. Olsen went out to Seattle.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't much out there except for maybe he had one. And you got to think he hasn't been on IR like that either. He's had some injuries and bumps in here, but
I mean, Greg Olson's been on IR a lot.
he has, but it's maybe Pete Carroll. It's the coach maybe. Holla at Gruden is how I kind of look at it. Like I said, I think he was trying to protect the front office more or less than close the door on himself. That door, when it closes, man. And I salute you for trying to take another shot at this. Me being 2 years out, Jay, ain't no way I'm trying to put pads back on. And I'm 18 months at this point, maybe, not even 18 months. I'm like, nah, you got it?
I mean, we already said, if somebody loses a tight end during the season, maybe even a contender, maybe you kick the tires on Delaney just to make sure, because you could potentially do worse. If he could still play, if he could come in and give you 300-400 yards receiving in the back half of the season, then that would certainly be worth it. It's just right now there's no market for it.
It's not. And on YouTube chat, somebody just said maybe he wants to finish on his terms.
Yeah, and most people don't get that chance.
Dog, that's
unless you leave when you can still play, a lot of people don't get that opportunity.
For one organization, maybe two. Like, and he spent 7 here in Nashville, but I'm sorry, it ain't many that get that. It's just not, man.
Cousin Justin Brinkley, we'll give him top observation for this hour. He got jokes. The irony of Delaney's last name being Walker, because that's what that man will need to use to get out on the field in 2021. Hashtag dad joke. Hashtag Delaney's old. Hashtag don't trash our city and fans.
What's wrong with you?
The petty has arrived on this Monday.
It is here and well. And also just looking at younger tight ends that are in the league. Jesse James is still a free agent, not signed. Tyler Eifert is out there. Virgil Green, Jordan Reed, Luke Stocker, who's a former Titan.
And you think about Jordan Reed and Tyler Eifert, both dudes that have been hurt a lot throughout their career, despite having a lot of talent. Yeah. And Delaney, at this point, he started racking up the injuries because he was taking a lot of hits over the middle and because he was the guy. He was the target. He almost had 100 receptions. The year you talked about with 2015 with the Titans, that put a lot of tread on its tires.
That team was 3-13.
Yeah, exactly.
So when it comes down to national recognition, 13-3 gets you there.
If I can be serious for a minute.
Please.
He's played 8 games in 3 years.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
Actually,
Lance?
that's not the end of the story. One more. He's going to be 37 years old.
I thought it was 38. Is it 37?
37. He's going to be past 35.
Yeah, 37.
It's a tough ask. Let's just say that. Easy ask is listen to Coach Mack.
He was good.
He's coming next.
Till he mentioned the city. I think.
I think that's where he loses some of the fans.
When he compared it to Atlanta is where that's when it
where
went
he
off
lost
the
me.
rails.
That's where he lost me because
that's
just a bad take. That's just wrong. Like that's objectively wrong. Coach Mack is right a lot of times. Yeah. He will join us on the other side. You won't want to miss it. We'll talk to him about this. See what he has to say about it next here. JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Buck loves his job.
It's a great privilege to be able to do a job like this. I don't want to take that for granted.
The Buck Rising Show. This morning starting at 10 on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's JMart. Everybody here, all the listeners, everybody listening right now knows Genesis Diamonds is where you go for engagement rings and designer jewelry. Everybody in Nashville knows it. People who shop around always end up at Genesis for the value. Their prices are going to blow you away. But what we don't talk about as much, I have a lot over this past handful of months, is the overall experience at Genesis. You walk in the door, somebody greets you with a smile and a drink. Yep, offered a Diet Coke, a water, something like that. They're always smiling, always ready to help you, but it's zero pressure. They're not just hovering over you the entire time. Nobody's staring you down. It's a relaxed environment. The showroom is awesome. The lighting's gorgeous, but it's not stuffy. Nobody's on commission here, and you can tell. They want to help you get what you need, but it doesn't feel like you're on a car lot. The level of education that you get is incredible. I knew nothing about diamonds. I knew enough by the end of my experience there to feel like the purchase was right for Abby. Just an awesome overall vibe. A really cool atmosphere, not what you come to expect in a fine jewelry store. It's more for the people, you know? Lots of laughing, lots of having a good time. It's just another thing that really makes Genesis stand out. The professionalism and high quality you deserve, but a laid-back, easygoing atmosphere. So if you're getting engaged, if you're celebrating an anniversary this summer, any special occasion, Genesis, my jewelry store, that's where you need to go. For value, selection, quality, guarantees, and a really good time, Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
2020 taught us about being there for each other. 2021 looks brighter already. Being there for each other is still what it's about. Farm Bureau Health Plans is there for you. I know because I'm more than a policy number, I'm family. Like my dental vision silver policy,
JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone on this Monday, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Hashtag for the fam. Hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio. 11-year NFL veteran ball for life, Ramon Foster. Jonathan Schaefer, Jason Martin. That's your Voltron. We're on Twitter at JMart and Ramon. And we welcome in for his weekly appearance with us, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio, brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Turn to the folks who've been in the game since 1947. Farm Bureau Health Plans offers the great health care coverage you need with a price tag you can afford. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, JMart, Ramon. How we doing, guys?
Pretty good. We're getting there, Coach, in terms of football is nearing. Training camp
starts today, right?
Yeah, we're almost there. It feels like it because we're starting to get the excitement. You can see the listening audience beginning to comment on the season, and of course, Titans fans are over the moon because they just feel pretty good about their football team.
Well, and they should, and all fan bases at this time. That's a great thing about the National Football League. When the season ends and you've got one team that has reached their ultimate goal, and then everybody else comes back down to ground zero, and everybody gets a fresh start. And you have the draft, you have the free agent acquisitions, and I mean that's what makes it so exciting. I mean, opening day in the National Football League. Let's fast forward to that. Is a really exciting time. But this time leading up to training camp, with all the anticipation. I mean, it's just a cool thing, and especially coming off of what we all went through. Everybody, I'm talking about everybody, all of our fans, all of our listeners out there, everybody that we went through as an NFL people last year. Everybody's just so thankful that this year will hopefully be a lot better on that side of it.
Coach, that's the beauty of football. We finally get a chance to see it, and we get to see it in big fashion too, man. Like you said, this offseason has been full of a bunch of moving parts, man. And the closer we get to it, the more anxious we're gonna be we're gonna be to see those people out there, man. If there's any free agent or any returning player that you're most looking forward to seeing, Coach Mack, man, if you could just name drop one or two that's like, yeah, this could be a big year for him. For me, I'm looking forward to Jarvis Landry. No, not Jarvis Landry. Harold Landry. My bad. Not Jarvis. Harold.
Well, Jarvis is a pretty good player.
He wouldn't mind having him here.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Ramon. Look, to me, I think it's a really important year, and this is no great revelation from an analyst, is that those second-year players, in Fulton and Darrington Evans, this is a big year for those guys.
Yeah.
It really is, because they've both got the requisite skills to play in positions where the Titans need them to be able to help, and to help significantly. They weren't able to do that last year because of injury and because everything was truncated. They really didn't get a chance to fully get their NFL legs under them because there was no preseason, there was basically no offseason, no true physical indoctrination into what the National Football League is. This is a big year for them. I'm looking forward to watching those two.
So Delaney Walker spoke to SiriusXM, and he said some interesting things. I think the first thing that needs to be taken from it is Delaney Walker really still wants to play football. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't feel like his career's over, despite the fact that he's about to be 37, or he's 37 years old right now, and he's dealt with a whole lot of injuries and things like that. But, Coach, you've been here for a while, and you know how good he was while he was here. He made the point that because he played for this organization, the accolades weren't quick to follow, as if this market being so small means he wasn't going to get all pros. He wasn't going to get the same kind of notoriety. He said he's far away from a Hall of Fame jacket because he spent time in Nashville. Do you sympathize with some of the things that Delaney was trying to get across?
Well, first of all, I didn't hear him. But look, Delaney was a good player, before he got here. I knew Delaney Walker when he was at San Francisco. I mean, the guy was a really good player there. I mean, he really was. He just, they happened to have two really good tight ends at the time. Let me just say this about the Hall of Fame. What are there, 346 members right now in the Hall of Fame? 350?
Yes, sir.
Okay, about 350. The National Football League's been playing for 100 years. Okay? There's a lot of players in 100 years. There are a lot of great players that aren't in the Hall of Fame. I actively coached in this league for 31 years. If you just take 53 active players times 31 years. What's that over? 1,600 players?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been associated and on teams with 8 of them. That percentage is less than 0.5% of the players. Look, the Hall of Fame is a tremendous, outstanding honor. But just because you're not in the Hall of Fame or considered for the Hall of Fame doesn't mean you weren't a really good National Football League player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me just put that out there, because anybody that plays in this league, and until you really get up close to it and look at it and see, it's a small percentage that are even able to make it and play, a smaller percentage that are able to play for an extended career, and an even smaller percentage that have outstanding years during the time that they play. So any of that stuff, guys, I really, that doesn't, no, I will never, ever second guess or disparage, a former player, because I just got too much respect for him.
Yeah, I feel you on that, Coach Mack. And the other part of it, though, is me being a former player, Coach Mack, I understand kind of where, let's say Delaney's coming from, or anybody's coming from in that fashion. His last best years, and I kind of said this earlier on our show, was his Pro Bowl years. And then he had 2 injuries, 2 years of IR. And Jason, I think, kind of brought that up. He kind of wants to walk away on his own terms a little bit when given that opportunity. But in your years across this league, and personnel coach in the front office and as a coach, how many players have you actually run across that's been able to walk away from the game on their terms?
That point is such a big point. And look, we're back to the Hall of Fame, talking about great players. Let me tell you a conversation I had with Mike Singletary that he had with me. I didn't have it with him. Mm-hmm. He approached me 2 years before he decided that he was done. He approached me in the off season and said, "Coach, I'm going to ask you something, because I trust you." He said, "During these next 2 years, when you ever see me not being me, I want you to be honest enough to tell me, because a lot of people won't tell me." He said, I want you to tell me that, because I don't ever want to be out there when I'm not who I've always tried to be." Right. So, when he would after that second year of that, he said, "I'm done. I've done it. I can walk away on my own terms." I think a lot of it is being able. It's hard. Look, it's hard to accept, because it's a special thing to be a professional athlete. It's a special thing to be a National Football League player. And I'm not even talking about the lifestyle or the money. Take all that away from it. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that you are doing something that you dreamed of doing as a kid. And all of you guys that did it dreamed of doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you really did. And then to be able to reach that, and then at some point, knowing that you're still a physically healthy human being, mm-hmm. you may not be a physically healthy professional athlete, to say that it's all over, that's hard. So I've been through it a lot, guys. Yeah. Not only now, but even 35 years in the league, I still talk to players. It's hard. It's hard to walk away from that, and I completely understand that and get it. And unless you've been around it, it's hard to understand, and why you would say, how could somebody even say that after everything that they've done and everything that's been? But you have to understand the daily grind that it is to be able to get there and stay there. Ramon, how hard is it not only to get there, you were a free agent, but how hard is it to stay there? And so to me, I never begrudge any of these players anything like that, because I know what's going on.
And I can hear your tone, Coach Mack, to where it's like you have full understanding, and that's where I am this morning. It's like, okay, I know his comments were where they were, and I'm trying to protect them, in which I know guys want to say, because the game it gives you a lot and it takes a whole lot too. And I think right now he's still trying to get a little bit, man. Like you said, to walk away, I ain't gonna lie to you, it wasn't hard, but I felt that weight of the pressure of the game kind of lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, okay, I'm okay with being done.
There you go. Yeah. And once you reach that, but that's the inner peace that everybody has to reach individually.
Yeah.
Okay. And people are different. Some people get to it in different ways.
Coach, when did your football career begin? Like your career in football, how old were you when it began?
I was playing for the Snyder, Texas Pee Wee League Frogs when I was 7 years old.
First off, that's a great drop. But cool. When did you start coaching?
seriously, when I went to school, I mean, I was lucky enough to be recruited by a lot of schools in the Southwest Conference and had a 4-year full scholarship and chose to go to TCU and had a nice college career. But, I went to school. I went to school, I got a business degree. I thought I was going in the oil business. I mean, that's what I thought I was doing because that's what my grandfather was in, and I never intended to make this my life's work. But when I went back and wanted to go to graduate school, and they said they would pay for my graduate school if I would help coach the freshman team, all of a sudden when I got into that and started doing it, and then they put me on the road recruiting, and I got involved in that life and had some success. And then at 24 years old, I was offered a full-time job at the University of Missouri. I mean, I went, wow, okay, I'll try this.
Yeah.
And so, football has always been a big part of my life. I grew up in West Texas. I came back from a week out there. I mean, look, it's always been a huge part of my life. And then when I got into it, and it's given me more than I ever even could have dreamed of. I mean, seriously, to be able to have coached 31 straight years in the National Football League, and to be able to have been exposed and have done the things and be around the people that I've been around, and still look what it's done for my career afterwards. So look, it started out early, but I knew this once I got into it, that, and it's so true. And I've said this to you guys before, every day, especially when you get into this league, every day is an interview. Every day is an interview, and you've got to be all in. If you're not all in this league, then you're going to be out pretty quick.
So the reason I asked the question is, I think one thing that we forget, and I always go to the Shawshank Redemption, when Red's getting out of prison, there's always the talk of when you get out of jail and you've been there for a long time, you don't know anything else. And I think one of the things that we forget, the reason I asked you about your age and everything else is, I don't know what Delaney Walker did in middle school. I don't know if he had a job in high school, but I do know that football is all he knows. Like, football's the life that he has. You think about somebody that's 37 years old that is now asking a question, well, what am I going to do now? Because this is what I've done my entire life. I think that gets lost because it's so hard for us to realize that if you're playing in the NFL, there's a good chance that's all you've cared about since high school. And at that point, then they're asking, well, what's the next phase of your life going to look like? And certainly it's easy to say family and faith and all that kind of thing. But what are you going to do to earn a living? Like, Tom Brady's still playing football. He doesn't have to. He never has to do anything else again. But I wonder if he's wondering, what am I going to do post-football? And Delaney doesn't like the idea, potentially, of having to make that choice right now when he still thinks, I can keep this life going for a couple more years.
Well, the point that you make, JMart, is a relevant point for this reason. For any professional athlete, when they are through professionally, whether it's because of, physically they break down or whether their time just runs out, they're still young people. They're still extremely young people. And as you say, with a lot of life ahead of them. And so some of that probably does, not probably, it does, come to bear. And so, that's a real relevant point.
Coach, as we get into training camp, it's all about battles. It's who's going to win the day, period, and how many can you win in a row, and there's going to be some wins and losses. The kicking situation, I just want to know, it's a hard position to kind of evaluate a little bit because more goes into it than just hits and misses sometimes. It's all about your nerves in situations too. How do you actually evaluate that to say who's, the guy for us or who has the most potential to get us out of bad situations?
We're talking about place kickers now?
Yes, place kickers, field goals, extra point. Yes, sir.
All right, look, I coached in the league for a long time. I've got some pretty deep knowledge of the game. Kicking, I was the first to admit I knew nothing about it. Mm-hmm. Now, I hired really good people to help me, but the guys that I would go to is the kickers themselves. I equate those guys to professional golfers, because it's a whole lot of the same type of dynamics, and it's a whole lot type of the same mindset. And it may be even more, because at least professional golfers, you get a bad swing, you're probably going to get about, 50 or 60 more of them.
Yeah.
As a kicker in the National Football League, there is so much that goes into it, as far as just all the really good kickers that I have been around. The thing about them is they found some way to find some modicum of consistency through all types of situations. Because most of the time, Ramon, think back to when you were playing. Most of the time, when that guy, other than an extra point, and now the extra points are a little bit nebulous because they've moved it back, and so there's some drama there. But most of the time when you were playing and you'd been out there grinding as an offense and as a team, and most of the time when that guy trots out there, it's pretty important. You need it. So that's a whole different type of a mindset. And so you talk about evaluating them. The thing that you're looking for anything else, is consistency. And consistency, I think, is something that you can never guarantee in that. Just like, I don't know if you guys just watched the Open that was on television, but those guys are the best of the best. And I saw a couple of cold shanks. So all I'm saying is this: if you're going to evaluate them, and what you have to do every year, and if you're going to have a competition, clearly this year in camp, you've got to give them all the chance they can to compete. But until they start making it under stressful situations, time in and time out, you really don't know.
Wow. Coach Floyd Reese, Bum Phillips, obviously Jeff Fisher. On the way out, just a couple of thoughts on the newest additions to the Titans Ring of Honor.
First thought is Amy Adams Strunk and Kenneth and Barkley and Susie, they're pushing all the right buttons. That was such a really good move. It was a relevant move. It was a very timely move. All of those guys. I knew Coach Phillips. Of course, I know what Bum Phillips meant. I was, I'm from Texas, and that whole "Love You Blue" thing was magnificent. For the Oilers, it really was. And then so basically, you're talking about three cornerstones of the Oilers and then the Titans franchises that have really, and what Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese did when they moved that football team here, guys. It's what this foundation was built on. It really was. And so for Amy Adams Strunk, ever since she has taken this over, you talk about someone that understands and just gets it on so many fronts. And that's what impresses me so much about the reason this organization is so solid right now. But that move for those three guys, there's not one person that knows anything about the National Football League that would even bat an eye at that. They would all say, right, that should be.
Coach, good stuff. Absolutely. As always, we're about to start talking ball, like really start talking ball, and we can't wait.
Guys, the next time I will see you guys in person is probably on the practice field.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. We're getting to that time of year, Coach.
See you guys.
All right, you too. You can plan on Farm Bureau health plans for better coverage, better rates, and better customer service. They've been providing Tennesseans with the home field advantage for almost 75 years. It is about to be the end of the third hour. You know what happens at the end of the third hour?
What happens? Going into the fourth?
It's time to – you don't live in simple Sumner, but we will humble you in Hendersonville. Because it is time to celebrate birthdays. Yes. We got a couple of the fam celebrating birthdays, and then we got celebrities. And the question is, how many of those does Ramon Foster actually know? All of them. Mm-hmm. That's calling a big, big shot. We'll do birthdays when we come back. It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Believe me, they sound better than they look. 104.5 The Zone TV. Live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope.
Hey, buying a home. You might be ready. You're wondering whether or not you have what you need to get the home that you want in this market. I know there's other places in the country right now where the market is a little bit down, but that ain't the case in Nashville. Everybody's trying to move here, and then they've got to find somewhere to move. They're trying to figure out how they can do it for a little bit less money if it's possible. I got the team that's going to do it for you. It's Mortgage Investors Group, whether it's the first home or whether it's the forever home. MIG, committed to helping Tennesseans like you and your family fulfill your dreams of home ownership. Their mortgage experts are going to find and structure the mortgage that best fits your needs and achieves all of your goals, because Mortgage Investors Group wants to be your home loan lender. So if it is buying a new home that you're trying to accomplish in 2021, maybe you don't want to move, but you want to find a better home loan payment, something more affordable, something better in your budget, let Mortgage Investors Group do the work for you. Here is your website, migonline.com. That's where you want to go to get set up. MIGonline.com will give you the advice that you need to get you started and get you ahead. There's offices all over the place, offices near you, Brentwood, Cool Springs, Hendersonville, just to name a few. Somewhere near you, MIG has you covered. Again, that website, migonline.com, or you can text MIG to 31399. That's MIG to 31399 to get pre-qualified. That pre-qualification process could not be more important. If you get pre-qualified, you will get moving with Mortgage Investors Group. Equal Housing Lender, license number 109111.
Brett Doherty here. I want to talk about a new mobile brake repair service that I'm really excited about called New Brakes Mobile Brake Repair. New Brakes, that's NU Brakes. We'll send a full-time certified brake tech to your home, office, or wherever you are to fix your brake.
podcast. JMart and Ramon. Drop us a 5-star review. You can also find us on Twitter at JMart and Ramon. Time for birthdays. Throw some sportsmen's out. First, George Fent, 29, WKU standout, who was in really good shape and decided to put on weight in the NFL and just become an offensive lineman. Out of nowhere.
Worked out.
Didn't play in college. We play in the pros. Trent Williams is 33.
Okay.
Brent Grimes, 39. Leroy Butler, 53. LaMarcus Aldridge is 36. Adam Morrison, 37. And Rick Ankiel is 42.
Gotcha. Knocked them out the way.
All right.
Let's
Yeah,
get
you
to
knocked
it.
them out 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to name you 13 guys. I want you to tell me who these guys are. Not individually, but what they all do.
All right.
Zach Harrowires, John St. John, Mike Thomas, Mitchell Bannister, Tim Bergen, Dylan Bernard, Aaron Jones, Brennan Sarazin, Brian Croswell, Corey Lee, Phil Weatherup, Mike Hagel, and Bob Keast.
I play football. I heard Aaron Jones.
No, you didn't. Well, actually, you did.
I did.
Aaron, but it's E-R-Y-N is how you spell his name.
Musicians. They all
Take
play-
one more guess. I'm not expecting you to know this. I was just curious.
They're all part of a funk band. Parliament.
That's a big funk band.
Parliament was huge.
They're all professional lacrosse players that celebrate birthdays today.
What? Professional?
Yeah.
Huh.
I guess.
They lost me.
They're
on that
lacrosse
one.
players celebrating birthdays.
I bet you Duke alum would know that.
Maryland. Virginia, Johns Hopkins.
Okay, all right.
North
there.
Carolina,
Johnny
Syracuse. Mike Golick Jr.,
Mike Golick Jr. definitely is going to know.
who absolutely loves it. All right. Now to the real festivities.
Let's go.
Benedict Cumberbatch is 45.
Why do I feel like I know that name?
You should.
Dude.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Doctor Strange in the Marvel film.
Correct.
Ah, there we go. Look at Shave covering for his guy today. Hey.
No, you didn't get it. No.
No, you got
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Missed that one. Okay, that's one I missed. I'm
Was
cool with
supposed
that
to be in the end of WandaVision. They changed it.
You know
They
what? You
changed
owned
it?
it. That's good.
Yeah, he was
I
supposed to
owned
be.
it.
He was
You
supposed
owned
to be
it.
the conclusion.
That's good.
Anthony Edwards is 59, Mo.
Anthony Edwards.
I don't expect you to know this one.
From the Butterfly Effect.
Did this dude just did this?
The basketball player?
Anthony Edwards, no. Anthony Edwards was in ER. He also played Gilbert in Revenge of the Nerds, Revenge of the Nerds 2.
Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Really?
Yep.
Gilbert. Which one was Gilbert? Was that the one that burped all the time?
No,
that
was
one's
that was
Ramon.
Ogre. That was Ogre.
Oh, Ogre.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that burps all the time is Ramon.
No, my kids.
Yeah, I always forget about Top Gun.
Yep.
I just always think of Revenge of the Nerds first for some
I
reason.
think of ER first.
And ER, yes.
ER. Huh.
ER is a pretty popular show in the 90s.
I remember.
Because that was his biggest
Yeah, it was.
star turn.
People started wearing scrubs all the time because of ER.
And because they went to medical school.
There's a lot of people wear scrubs now just to be wearing them.
We don't want no scrubs. Brian May is 74. Who was Brian May, Moan?
He was in The Dark Knight.
He was not.
He was. Nice. I know I'm doing bad with shade.
I don't expect you to get this one either.
What
If I were to say Another One Bites the Dust,
Another one bites the dust.
who's saying
another one.
who
Queen.
who's responsible? Yeah.
Hey.
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 He is-
Original? Well,
yeah, he's the guitarist from Queen.
okay. All right, for sure. Love Bohemian Rhapsody, by the way.
The song?
The movie.
Okay.
Movie's really good. I like the movie.
That was all right.
It was just all right.
Yeah, it was all right.
It's one of the few movies I can put on and just love watching it.
I mean, the performance from Rami Malek was great.
Okay.
But it was really just a showpiece for that. I wasn't blown away with the film as a whole.
It made me go back and
It's all
listen
right.
to more of their music, though.
I agree with that.
Okay, all
I
right.
agree with that. Chris Sullivan's 41.
Chris Sullivan. Marvel?
Actually, yes.
Chris.
But that's kind of a smart.
I know. No.
He's barely done it, but he was in it for just a small second. I can't say he wasn't.
God wise. I don't know. I'm just go ahead and say that one. I feel like I knew he was in Marvel.
This Is Us.
This Is Us. Okay. All right. I missed
He
that.
played Taserface in Guardians of the Galaxy.
I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years.
He was Taserface in Guardians of the Galaxy too. So when you said Marvel, you just kind of lucked into it. Because you don't know what Taserface is. I can't even remember what Taserface is.
Taserface was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
second
two.
movie.
The second
Yeah,
one,
second
yes.
Taserface.
Taserface.
Jared Padalecki turns 39 today, Mo.
He loved him in Jurassic Park. No?
How old would he have been if he was in Jurassic Park?
I don't even know who this person is. So.
See, not even Shafe knows, man.
Jared Padalecki was in a show called The Gilmore Girls. Actually, just Gilmore Girls, not The Gilmore Girls, but he's probably best known for Supernatural, where he was one of the two leads in a show that went 15 years.
So he was on the C-Dub.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Now he's still on the C-Dub in Walker.
Okay.
The reboot of Walker, Texas Ranger.
There, get out. What?
There is no reboot.
Oh, yeah.
Of Walker, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have a reboot of Walker, Texas
Because you
Ranger.
can't have Chuck Norris.
Yeah. How to ruin a good thing. No, just no.
I'm not happy about this.
Me either.
You didn't know about it?
No. Did Chuck Norris fight somebody?
Maybe. I mean, he had to have okayed it, because if not, I wouldn't show up on the set.
Dog. Sometimes just leave it alone.
Robert Gibson is 63 today.
Was in The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. No.
I like that guess, though.
What about A Clockwork Orange?
Which was in Space Jam 2. Characters from Clockwork Orange were in the audience in Space Jam 2, the kids movie. Because nothing says kids movie like Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange.
Wait. There were characters from A Clockwork Orange in Space Jam 2?
Yeah.
It was all Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they wanted every property they had.
So every piece of IP they had, they dumped into that movie.
I think Pennywise
you think about a
was
kid's.
in it.
No. Pennywise was not in Space Jam.
Somebody told me they saw Pennywise in the crowd.
Look, A Clockwork Orange was, maybe?
I guess. If A Clockwork Orange is in there, anything could have been in there. Robert Gibson, Schaefer.
Robert Gibson, Rock and Roll Express.
Yes, one half of the Rock and Roll Express was Ricky Morton.
Mm-hmm.
Pro wrestling tag team, one of the greats of all time.
Gotcha. I missed that one.
Indeed. 615.
He was furry.
I was 0 for 3 today.
Yeah, he was furry. 615-737-1045. 737-1045. Fourth hour is ahead. We've got Kayla Anderson. We'll talk about the Ryan Ellis trade. We'll talk about Delaney Walker's thoughts. And we'll reset the headlines next here on 1045 The Zone.
The best Titans, Vols, and Preds coverage. Blaine and Mickey. This afternoon, 1 to 3 on 1045 The Zone.
This is Boomer Esiason with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Oxford Gold Group. Call 8
Titans football. Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 9:02. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. SEC Media Days kicking off today from Hoover, Alabama. 3HL will be broadcasting live, and you can tune in beginning at 3 o'clock for that live coverage. After trading Victor Arvidsson a few weeks ago, Nashville Predators are continuing to reshuffle its roster. The Preds traded defenseman Ryan Ellis to the Philadelphia Flyers for center Nolan Patrick and defenseman Philip Myers. The Preds then sent Patrick to the Vegas Golden Knights for center Cody Glass. The expansion draft for the NHL's Seattle Kraken is this week. The Predators decided to not protect Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, Holly Yarncroke, Colton Sissons, and Nick Cousins, among others. Duchene and Johansson likely won't be taken because of their high cap numbers. American Colin Morikawa won the Open Championship on Sunday. It's his second major championship victory. Fired a final round 4 under to finish 15 under for the tournament, defeating Jordan Spieth by 2 strokes. Tampa Bay defeated the Braves 7-5 yesterday. Tampa rallied 4 runs in the 7th inning to get the win. Atlanta 2 games below 500, but only 4 games out of first place, trailing the New York Mets in the NL East. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once. Your home for the Titans and the Balls. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Everybody's attention now.
Now it's time for Jason Martin and Ball for Life Ramon Foster.
Powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors.
Together, they are JMart and Ramon on 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Hour number 4, hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio is upon you. It's upon us. We're blessed to bring it to you, courtesy of all 4 Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. 11-year NFL veteran and Ball for Life, Ramon Foster. Jonathan Schaefer, Jason Martin. It just didn't come to me. I was trying to come up with something clever for Schaefer. Just nothing there. Roadrunner watcher, Jonathan Schaefer.
That's fair. I'll watch that Friday.
Yeah, watch that on Friday. Sometimes, man. Sometimes it's a Monday brain thing.
It is.
Boneless.
Dog, I just retweeted a tweet on Twitter, man. And it's
Where else would you retweet it?
I mean,
is it Jameis?
Yes, it is.
Is he eating W's again?
No, he's in the backyard with somebody.
Oh no, I saw that.
And this dog that's in the middle of him is so confused. I guess he's working on his arm, moving and stuff like that. If you can, go to our Twitter account, my Twitter account, at Ramon Foster.
Hard pass.
And you will see Jameis Winston just going bananas in his backyard, man. The Saints are in good hands. Jay. That's all I got. Titans, you got them on the roster this year.
Game 5 went to the Bucks. They're 1 away from an NBA championship. Now I'm going to watch this video. Let me watch this.
I know, man.
That dog is all over the shop.
Dog, I told you.
Dog's like, what am I supposed to do? Isn't this supposed to be playing for me?
It was like, I'm open.
It's like he's not really throwing anything either. It's almost like he has a sock in his hand.
It's a towel. I know it's used like in baseball to like help with shoulder, like throwing motions and stuff. And for the life of me, Jameis and his offseason workout.
Did you see the other one where he was backtracking?
In between the dummies?
If you haven't seen it, just search Jameis Winston and go to videos, and you'll probably find both those 2 videos really fast. But the one with the tackling dummy or whatever it is it a broom?
It's a tackling. It's like 5 tackling dummies and him just trying to move his feet, keep his eyes downfield.
I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
I'm with you.
It's just it's unique.
When he's had the takes that he's had on eating and W, one of the best, the ones that got me started and let me know Jameis needs to be protected at all costs is in that national championship game in the post-game interview. And it was one of those situations where he said, I looked at him. He said, are you strong? I said, I'm strong if you strong. He said, well, we strong then. I was just like, did this dude just did this?
Yeah. Jameis Winston has a little bit of a JaVale McGee in him.
He's so pure, man. You just
like dudes that work hard.
Yeah.
But for some reason, everything you see him do is just stupid.
so silly, man.
Like this right here, like this is potentially very helpful, but all I can see in this shot is the dog running like he's trying to cover Jameis. He's like, are you going to throw that? This looks like a fetch session, and it's not.
And at the end of it, the dog looks so tired, like, I don't know who to go to.
Dog finally just gives up and lays down in the grass. Like, okay, we're done here. Yeah.
It's just, like you said, Jameis can't just stop recording yourself, Jameis.
Buccaneers, Cowboys, Steelers report to training camp this week. We're almost home, folks.
We are. The dead season is almost over, y'all. I think they report on Wednesday. I'm seeing guys on my social media go back to Pittsburgh, and all I can think of is, man, I'm glad I don't have to go to camp that early. I hated going to camp early, Jay. Like a week before everybody else. It's a simple fact that we got more practices than I was that petty. Like, why we got to have more practices? I don't care if this guy's going into the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? That was the absolute worst.
I gotta stop watching this video.
I told you, it's internet gold right now. I can't wait till somebody put some music behind that video of Jameis throwing that towel around. And it's probably for good reason, really good reasons, Jay. But, yeah, training camp starts up this week, man, and that extra 5 days that you get in front of everybody else, it feels so just like, why are y'all doing this to us, man? It's more days on the field. Yes, I know the fans love it because our practices were open to everybody, so they got a chance to come out more often, and it was good. But by week 4, you're just done. I'm done seeing my teammates. I'm done hitting my teammates. I'm done seeing the fans for the time being. Just let me practice and go home is all I wish for at that time, man. But it is what it is. It's the job, and I'm looking forward to watching this Titans group in camp sometime soon, too.
Indeed.
Just to see how they compete.
The story of today has been Delaney on SiriusXM. Delaney Walker talking about his time here and how that affected how people have seen him, his credentials and all of that. If you didn't hear it earlier, we've played it a couple times. Let's play it again and we'll comment here. We got Kayla Anderson coming up as well, but here is Delaney on SiriusXM.
Delaney, I think the simple answer may be I just like to play, but I sit back and see a guy that's accomplished all that you have. Kirk mentioned the 3 Pro Bowlers, 3 Pro Bowls, 14 years. You played 1 game in 18. You played 7 in 19. You sat out last year. Well, what motivates you to want to play even more games going forward?
I want to win a Super Bowl, honestly. I feel like that helps you in your status as you retire in this game, and it's sad that that's something that you got to have to be recognized sometimes. And again, me being in Tennessee, I hate to say this, that hurts my value in any type of awards or accolades because I did play in Tennessee, and you can look at some of the greats like Eddie George, Steve McNair, and them guys just not getting them coached yet, and it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl and they played in Tennessee. So I look at it, if I can win a Super Bowl, maybe that'll help me, and so you can go from there.
You know, I find it so interesting, and I love the honesty. In what way will it help you, other than legacy, which I think we all understand? But Delaney, in fairness, you know, outside of the quarterback position, Julio Jones may retire without a Super Bowl. We're not going to look at him any differently. You know what I mean? So in what way do you think it helps you? Why are you so motivated by just that?
Well, you say Julio, but he played in Atlanta. Look at Atlanta and their fan base. Look at the type of players that played in Atlanta and look where they at. Now, when I say when you play in an organization like Nashville, it's because it's so small. Our fan base is not as great as some of these organizations that other players that play that been great in them organizations. They get them accolades. But when you play in Tennessee, not a lot of you don't get primetime games. You don't get a lot of people seeing your games, so you don't get mentioned a lot. So sometimes you don't get brought up in these conversations. But when you have a Super Bowl ring, they bring you up in these conversations.
Look, man. Atlanta's a horrible sports town. That's not the point to make there at all. Also, Hall of Fame and Super Bowls. Barry Sanders didn't sniff a Super Bowl. Left because he played for an awful organization. Decided to retire rather than to keep playing for that team. That dude's in the Hall of Fame. You can stand out on a bad team. And I think Delaney did. What was the thing I've said off air a couple times? He was the thinnest kid at fat camp. The team was terrible throughout a lot of his time, especially when he first got here. That was a 3-13 team the year that he had his best statistical season in 2015. He ate on an awful team because there was nobody else at the table.
At that point.
But what does he say? Schaefer, what's the question you asked in our ears when we were doing that?
First part of that, now that I've listened to it for the third or fourth time, was when he was talking about Tennessee. I'm not sure if he was talking about the market size, although I think he was a little bit, but more talking about how, honestly, awful the organization was during especially his early days when he was with it, before they started rebuilding and they've become what they are right now.
It's definitely been a bookend franchise where when they first got here, it exploded. Then it's just kind of done. It's almost done this. It went down for a while, and now it's back up here. But you're on a bookend, at least where you stand right now, where you were expecting this team to potentially be this year. And unfortunately for Delaney, he left right about the time everything started to explode.
Yes, he did. Or was getting injured.
His timing was unfortunate, but at the same time, he benefited from that timing.
Exactly right.
Yes, he did. It sucks, though, because it just brings a black eye to the Nashville market. Like I said, it's one of those things where the fans, I know for a fact, feel like they can talk about it. They can bring it up about, like, not getting national exposure and whatnot. But when it comes to, like, a player not saying, man, I love to just be a part of this team, just say that. Don't say because you chose to come here, or because, this team market is what it is. As a free agent, you could have signed somewhere else. And I know you're appreciative, and the Titans are appreciative of you playing here and what you did here. Because, like you said, he was the highlight on some of those teams that were pretty bad. I think he was just stuck in a world where he just had bad management in front of him. Just say that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think most fans probably would have felt better about it if that had been the take. And I don't know whether or not that's part of it or even if that's what he's thinking at the time. But certainly that has a lot of impact on what happened. Top observation, Tony the Stud on Twitch, where you can join all the fam. My kittens have successfully unplugged my stand-up fan for the third time during the show. Vegas just posted odds at over/under 8 times during the show. Speaking of kittens, Buck Risen follows us, and apparently he owns a pack and play for the cats. I saw him in the shot, and I asked him, like, Buck, what's with the pack and play? And he said, I got these for the trash pandas. He's literally got a playpen for babies for cats.
He's got a new one that he rescued over the weekend, so we're up to 3 now.
And he said that one might be a raccoon because the photo's out and it's like out of the pack and play.
It does look like a raccoon.
That's crazy. His girlfriend is like, I need a dog, though.
So now he's got 3 cats.
But he got a third.
About right. Yep. That's right.
Stand your ground, Buck. That's all I got for you. Stand your ground.
Fight for the felines, Buck. Keep them going. Kayla Anderson, WKRN, Auntie Kayla. We'll talk to her about Predators making a move over the weekend, what she thinks of Delaney's comments. Whole lot with Kayla Anderson when we come back. It is JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Every great Titans moment can be found here. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans radio, 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's Schaefer with JMart and Ramon. Like Summer Fridays? Well, you're going to love Summer Mondays at BetMGM. The
Visit Grainger.com/keepstock to learn more. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, I'm Ryan Kelly with HeroLoan.com. We are locking loans in the twos and closing VA loans in as little as 14 days. Apply online today at HeroLoan.com.
The Home Loan Expert LLC, NMLS number 1326241.
Now, Kayla, are you riding around the mean streets of Nashville with an Uzi in the front seat?
No.
JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Ramon's still pricing Uzis over here.
I got pepper spray.
There you go. At Ramon Foster. We also talked about mace earlier. We talked about the rapper mace. So that pepper spray, it works.
Oh, my gosh.
At Ramon Foster. At Schaefer on Sports. At JMart Radio. At JMart and Ramon.
It's only going to get better from here on out.
There's no question about that.
Don't even feel bad, Kayla. He's got drops of me, too.
He's got drops of all of us. I sneezed earlier. I'm pretty sure he didn't pay attention. Thank goodness.
See what I'm saying?
It's not as good as yours.
Oh, but still.
There are a few things you do better than me. One of them is sneeze. We do welcome in Kayla Anderson, WKRN, Auntie Kayla. Kayla, what's up?
I mean, that was really well done.
It was.
That's the maestro behind the glass, Jonathan Schaefer, who told us coming into this, she's like, I now have a Kayla Anderson folder on our hard drive with a bunch of different drops for you.
I mean, I feel honored, guys. That's all I got to say.
That's all that's needed to be said because I was laughing big time. I probably shouldn't have asked you about the Uzi in the front seat, Kayla.
You know, I know how to handle situations, Mo, whatever.
I see you're such a gamer, and I love that.
Kayla Anderson, total pro, joining us on the line, joining us amateurs on the line. So, Kayla, the big story today, or at least what we've been talking about, is Delaney Walker talking to SiriusXM. What are your reactions? Do you have sympathy for anything that he's saying? Do you think that maybe he doesn't mean it the way that it's being construed, or do you just kind of have to roll your eyes and say, yeah, probably shouldn't have said that?
Yeah, that's a tough thing because I feel like Delaney Walker, first of all, it's hard for any of the media folks here to really understand him right now because he hasn't spoken with any of us. And I know that our camp has reached out to his agent just to try to see what's going on with Delaney, like how's life, what's happening. And I know that we've just not been able to connect. And then we hear from another media entity something like this. And I just feel like Delaney Walker, I mean, he was great when he was here, and I got to cover him for a couple of years. And he's a great leader in the locker room, but he's also, I feel like at that point of his career where maybe he's a little confused on what he's supposed to do, right? Am I really done playing? I feel like my body is telling me that at the same time you still maybe have that itch. And I'm not a professional athlete, but I consider my career kind of like a professional athlete because that's how much I love it. And when it's time to give it up, I think it's going to be really hard to do. And so I can understand what he's going through. And sometimes I think maybe when you're talking on national radio and you're trying to kind of make a point, which he was probably doing with saying, you know, the Titans fan base, maybe he didn't mean to pick on, but just the Titans organization as a whole, especially when he was here, didn't get that much love, and that, you know, hurts his overall look when it comes to what he did as a tight end in the league, and especially when he was right here in Nashville. So I think it's just like a little bit of confusion on what he thinks he should do at this point. And in that comes with frustration when you say something like that.
Yeah, and he says, you know, Eddie and Steve not having coats, meaning Hall of Fame jackets. He says it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl and they played in Tennessee. I mean, you have examples of guys that play in Tennessee that I think are certainly going to be in the Hall of Fame, that are currently playing right now that have the opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame. And the Super Bowl hasn't come, but you got a lot of Hall of Famers that didn't win Super Bowls either. I mean, if you were able to stand out, you were able to stand out. I think his big problem, we all have said this, Kayla, is when he starts comparing Tennessee to Atlanta in the question about Julio and talking about their fan base. Yes, it is certainly a bigger market. It's a much bigger market. But the Atlanta Falcons fan base and Atlanta sports fans in general are usually the butt of every joke and the bottom of every list when you're ranking fans. I mean, I don't know that was the smart play.
No, I don't think that was at all. And I would agree with you. I mean, first of all, I mean, I've been to Atlanta many times. I've seen sporting events there. And you're right. I mean, when they're good, their fan base can be good. They can be supportive, but there's a lot of inconsistency there. And I feel like at least with the Titans, because they're the biggest show in town when it comes to professional sports. I know the Preds had their great run there in 2017 and they've had sold out arenas, but when it comes to football, I mean, I think that it rules this town, and it rules much of the areas around it that don't have professional sports. I mean, there's a lot of Titans fans that don't live right here in Tennessee. And so I don't think that was the greatest comparison, especially now just with what Mike Vrabel has done, what Amy Adams-Strunk has done for this organization. I mean, it's really on the up and up. I know that doesn't help Delaney, but I think he kind of has to understand, too. You can't really compare it to Atlanta and say Atlanta's that much better.
Yeah, that's the part that kind of got us all. It was between that and just Hall of Fame. And Kayla, when we bring up the Hall of Fame conversation, he had a good stretch of years that, you know, he got Pro Bowls. I think he was the second team All-Pro one year, too. But in us talking about it, it's less than 400 players in the NFL Hall of Fame. You think he kind of lost reality in that, or was he just trying to say, look, if I was in Atlanta, I'd have more notoriety when it comes down to those votes?
Look, Delaney Walker is a really prideful guy. And a lot of, I mean, Ramon, you know, like when you play the game, you gotta have swag. You gotta have, confidence in yourself. Well, and Delaney was one of those guys. I mean, I remember covering him and just the way he presented himself in the locker rooms, even after losses. It's like the guy just like believed in himself, and I respect that. And so maybe, you know, you get caught up in what I did individually, but you're not looking at all the other people around you that have a possibility to get in the Hall of Fame. Because, like you mentioned, there's so few guys that get in, and it's not just the good guys, it's the really, really good guys. And they've made that clear by how many that they get into the Hall of Fame. And I think you kind of lose track of that as an individual because you think you're really good, and you are. Delaney did some great things, but you know, are you that elite level?
Yeah, and the answer was probably no. I mean, he was a good football player for an awful team. I called him the thin kid at fat camp more than anything. Another thing is you covered him up close, and I interviewed him a couple of times in the Titans locker room earlier in my career too. He was a nice guy, but one thing that I think we all know if you've been in that locker room is he was also very moody. Like there were times when he was really open and would want to talk to you, and there were times where you could just see, no, don't even go over to his locker. Like leave him be today. He was very much, he was on or he was stay away.
You're exactly right. I do remember a lot of that as well. You know, and you just never knew what day that was going to be when you went over there. But for the most part, I felt like when we did talk to him, he at least gave us a lot of honesty, which I respect as a media member, because a lot of the time we get the same old, you know, answer from players that were like, okay, please don't give us that player speak. Just give us some honesty. And that's one thing that Delaney was able to do as a player. I think it just comes from like who he is, just passionate guy. And even if it wasn't the answer that you wanted in terms of it being nice, sometimes it was just good to have an honest answer.
Was it fair for him to, you know, basically go at the fan base in the city? Or me personally, I think he was kind of wanting to channel his frustration towards the front office. That was a stretch during Titans' recent history where it just wasn't good picks, good play, good records. Which one of it do you think it was when it comes down to his critique?
Look, I don't really think he meant to do it towards the fan base, because when you look at the fan base, at least from what I've seen living here the past 4 years, the fan base really loved Delaney Walker. And I think Delaney Walker knew that the fan base loved him. So I don't think that was necessarily an intentional shot at the fan base. I do think it was more frustration towards the front office, maybe towards what has happened to him in terms of he just kind of like faded out. I mean, there was not really anything when he was done here, he was done here, and there was not really much else put out. And so I think it's more so like at the top and just with the frustration playing here when they weren't that great.
Yeah, I think
and you're looking at it now, and you're like, "Can I play with them now?"
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think it is. He played when they were nothing, and I think that benefited his stats because I don't think he would have the same kind of numbers likely if he were playing now. But he would have wins, and he would potentially have more prime times, and he would have some playoff performances and things like that. Instead, again, he played on a team where his best statistical season was Marcus as a rookie, and they were 3-13, and he was great that year. But that was all Marcus had. Like, Marcus had nobody else he could trust, and there was Delanie Walker. Delanie sees everybody starting to eat now, and now he's not available at the buffet, and that's making him sad.
That's such a great point, and I think you hit it right on the nail on the head there. And that kind of just comes with, the person Delanie Walker is. He's a really prideful guy. He feels like he's the best when he's on the field, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it when your time is kind of up, and now you're looking back at what could have been, or you wish you could have played now, that's when I think it just gets frustrating. And then you say some things that maybe you don't 100% mean in that way, at least.
Yeah, it's a rough place for him right now. But as a whole, though, as this team gets ready for camp, a lot of stuff got to be figured out. And I think, namely, the biggest thing is Taylor Lewan and, let's say, Bud Dupree also. Do you think we'll see them on a rep count when it comes down to it? Because the most important thing is getting them on the field. Camp will do that for them, but you need these guys during the season, and those are two guys that you must have this year to have the type of season that you want.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned, and I'll start with Taylor Lewan because last night on our show we picked the one person that we haven't really talked about this summer. And the reason why I chose Taylor Lewan was not because we don't talk about him. We talk about him off the field stuff all the time. He's either chugging a beer at a Pirates game or busting with the boys, like doing some interview. But we hadn't really talked about, how he's coming along. Will he be 100% ready? Right. And it's going to be such an important piece to that line, especially when you want your offense to have a seamless, transition from a new offensive coordinator. You've got new weapons. You really need that line to be ready. And I think to your point of, just are they going to be ready for camp? I don't know. I think the biggest thing here is to make sure that they are coming along the way they're supposed to with coming off of these injuries. And if that's, maybe not getting into camp right away, which I don't think they will be, it's getting right for the season. And fortunately, Bud Dupree and Taylor Lewan are pros. And they're all pros, but I think they know by now with the years that they put in the league of when they're ready, when their bodies are going to be ready, and they're going to be ready. Even if they can't be maybe physically at camp out on the field, they'll be ready to go mentally, physically when it comes to the season. So I think we might see them a little bit towards the end, but I think the biggest thing there is to make sure that they're 100% healthy.
Right. So when Arvidsson was let go, when the move had to be made, we started to say, and I think we were already feeling this way, Kayla, that this run, this group, it was just like, you know what, that window's shut now. We're going to start to see pieces dismantled. Ryan Ellis is the newest piece. Ryan Ellis moves on over the weekend. I don't think they're done, Kayla. Like, I still think there is more to kind of dismantle and break apart. It was a great run. Didn't quite get to the finish line, got awfully close, but now it appears like the Predators are starting to look ahead to a new future.
I think that you're right, and it's finally gotten to the point where I think David Poile looked himself in the mirror and said, it's time to start chopping this core up. And it was really hard for him to do because I think he's a really loyal general manager in terms of his personal relationships with these players, especially with that core from that 2017 Stanley Cup run. He didn't want to break them up. I remember so many times where he said he sat down with guys like Roman Josi and said, let's give this another try. And they did that, I think, for too long without breaking up the core. And now it's finally at the point where you're not just breaking up the core, you're like chopping it up, right? And I think it started, with Victor Arvidsson, really, that piece leaving. And then You got Ryan Ellis, where I think most of us weren't surprised that happened. Yeah. This is a guy that I think he's a good defenseman. I think he's undersized. I think he's pushed around in the playoffs. And if you're going in a different direction with this team, which Poyle's made it clear they want to get younger, and guess what? He also said they want to get bigger. And Ryan Ellis they're not going to fit into your system. So I think that there is a possibility of another move, because I think you really have to try to move one of these $8 million pieces if you want to go the direction you're going in, and have it, everybody buying into this new kind of Preds identity. And again, it's just hard to look on there. We've got two guys that are getting paid $8 million, and just the production is not even close to being there. And specifically, I think that's Matt Duchene, if I were to pick out of the two. But yeah, I think there's going to be more moves. And then, obviously you're going to lose a piece with the expansion draft on Wednesday. And whether that be Cal Yarncrook or what is it? Colton Sissons.
Yeah, Sissons is definitely
those are
them,
both really good players.
Yeah, you just can't keep everybody. And I think your point about the money is, look, Ellis's deal was not financially great for the Nashville Predators at all. Like when it happened, it felt like a lot. And then the production, at least early on, you're just like, holy cow, did you burn this money? Like what happened here? And I think that it became such a financial problem that this was the easiest move to make in terms of this had to happen for the future of the franchise, just on the budget side.
Yeah, I think, and that's part of this whole thing moving forward. They got to start saving some money, or just have some money available. And I think, because Ryan Ellis's deal, I believe he had 6 years, $6.4 million or something. So they really freed up some cap space there. And I think that that's just something moving forward, that David Poyle has a kind of a new vision for this team, and you got to go all in now. And I do think it was interesting, guys. I do want to bring up this point really quick, because it is a big deal. And I asked specifically, what's going to go on with who's leading this team? And I know that there's Roman Josi. I get it, guys. He's the captain. But Roman Josi is not the most vocal guy. He's not the most rah-rah guy. He's a captain because he's earned that with what he does on the ice and how he carries himself with that team. But there's got to be other leaders in that room, moving forward. And a lot of these guys are really, really young. And David Poyle specifically said that is on the top of my list that we're going to discuss with the staff on Monday when we get together, because we have to have guys that step up.
So I see this from Section 334 pop on YouTube, and this isn't the first time I've seen a comment to this degree. It says, need to move on from Poyle. Do you think that some of this responsibility does fall on him, and maybe the bloom has fallen off that rose over the last few years amidst the fans, and even maybe some quietly inside the offices?
Yeah, look, David Poyle has been here for a really long time. He's a guy that's very respected, not only in Nashville, but around the entire league. I personally think David Poyle is a spectacular GM. I've been in other cities, I've been in other markets. It's hard, because when things don't go right, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to blame like either the coach, or at this point, because they've hired, Heinze, they're going to Poyle because some of the moves have not worked out. But look at some of the moves that he made, and everybody was so excited. Like the Matt Duchene move, guys, I just remember the lead up, the build up to that move. And when it happened, people were like falling off their chairs. They were so excited. And now, 2 years later, they're like, get Poyle out of here. Why did he make that move? That's one of the things that you have to understand. It's not always going to go right. And if Poyle wouldn't have broken up the team, if he wouldn't have done what he's doing now, I would say, yeah, he's probably on his way out. But I think they're going to try this and see what happens. And if his vision works, he's going to stay here. If it doesn't work, he's probably on his way out.
Yeah, so you're giving him the opportunity to potentially remake the team. And if this falls, then there's nobody else to blame but David Poyle at that point.
Yep, 100%.
No, that makes sense. Total sense. It usually does when we talk to you, Kayla. We appreciate the time as always. We're looking forward to the next time, and hopefully eventually getting you in studio. We say that every time. We got to get it done. We got to get you in here.
You know I'm going to be, when I get invited in the studio, we're going to be popping bottles. I'm bringing in the champagne. I'm bringing in the donuts. You don't know what you're in for, guys.
First off, I'm sure that's going on the drop sheet, but how does pop the bottles and champagne also come with donuts?
Mimosas.
I love champagne
Mimosas, yeah,
and
fair.
I love donuts. I just feel like the two go really well together.
I think it'll work. Just like this show and you, Kayla.
Absolutely.
I love you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. That's Kayla Anderson, WKRN. On to
I'm
Kayla.
all about that.
That wasn't her live, but it might as well have been.
Sounded.
Popping bottles and champagne's getting added to the folder.
I can't wait.
And donuts. There we go.
There it is. 615-737-1045. We'll put a bow on it. We'll talk a little bit more about it. We can talk a hair about Delaney and some of the things. Also, Colin Morikawa has won 2 majors in his first try.
Wow.
In golf. Dude's got a swing that I am trying to replicate. We're getting there, folks. And y'all thought that everybody's going to come after my swing? Almost nobody did. People were like, that's not bad.
A little surprised. I was a little surprised something good was allowed to live on Twitter without being killed.
Occasionally, you get that stays alive, and Jameis Winston puts up a video of throwing towels.
People defending them.
People are the worst, and that explains it. We'll be right back. It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Nope.
Buck. Well, he's never at peace.
I'm at peace with that. Really, I'm not. I'm pissed.
The Buck Rising Show. This morning starting at 10 on 104.5 The Zone.
BetMGM welcomes you to Showtime with a risk-free first bet.
JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone, finishing up another 4 hours. And I see how your camera has frozen. Even better, you're in the shot this time, Shafe.
I am.
Me and you.
Your eyes also look closed in the shot, Shafe.
That's because I look stoned all the time.
Yeah, like you were watching How High.
That's because I have Jim Brewer eyes.
I never thought about you with Jim Brewer. Can you do Goat Boy? Cousin Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
Well, I was kind of agitated this morning about this Delaney Walker stuff, and I wanted to call in. And much like Delaney Walker when he was here, on the phone with Schaefer, I was behind an 18-wheeler when the tire blew, kind of like Delaney had one blowout as well. Look, we were the only franchise to take a shot at this guy after he had been with San Francisco, and he was the best player on a terrible team in his stint in Nashville. Congratulations. But to compare yourself to Steve McNair and Eddie George in the same breath and then badmouth the team, the franchise, and the fans that loved you while you're here, dude, realize what you are. And much like the Walker Texas Ranger remake, leave it alone. You're washed up. You weren't that good to begin with. You shined on a terrible football team, and now the one fan base that actually appreciated what you did for them, yeah, you've pissed them off. So happy Monday, Delaney. Hope you have a terrible one, buddy.
Whoa, that got petty real fast.
Real fast. This is the other side of it. One thing I've always heard from anybody in the league, most of the time older personnel, is you always want to be able to go back. And I don't know if Delaney's helping himself out with this one. Like I said, it wasn't a shot at the family as far as the Titans go, but it kind of was. Whether he wanted it to be that way or not, it just sucked because it's out there. And everybody's going to take it however they want. So we've heard two very passionate Titans fans, supporters, kind of say the same exact thing. Paxton said it, and Andrew just said it on the call, too. It's like you can just go take your bag and walk right down the street. We're good off you right now.
So one other thing. Shafe will appreciate this. You were playing, so you didn't see a lot of this happen, Mo. When you leave Tennessee, a lot of people have bad feelings when they leave this team.
In this past year,
Jarrell, Logan Ryan said he'd play for any team in the league other than the Titans. Now Delaney saying his things. Like, when you leave this team, I don't know what it is, but it's usually not a tender undoing.
Yeah, it really ain't. And maybe it's because they feel like they're bigger than what the franchise is, or they help uplift the franchise. Like, you're one of the pillars that lifted this franchise up. And I didn't really think of it in that context, but the way Andrew on the call just said, as far as you're putting yourself in the same breath as Steve and Eddie.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
That was a mistake.
That's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I think it was cousin Justin Brinkley on Twitter tweeting at J. Martin Ramon saying the only guy that you really should be mentioning with those two dudes that's played in the last handful of years is Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. And I say even for me, because I grew up here in the state of importance, Javon Curse. You know,
yeah,
that's
back in the same time frame.
All right.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Even though that was kind of a flash, and it was a flash, but it was a bright
nice
flash.
Yeah.
It was a blinding flash.
It was a big time flash. Let me see what was his.
I mean, when he was on, he was something else.
Yes, indeed.
But if you're talking about current generation guys, the only one that you really put up with those guys, and certainly if you're trying to choose, like Delaney's not even the first guy that you would mention. You would probably mention Jarrell before you mentioned him.
In that era, he was an all-pro type.
Right.
I'm looking back as one of the guys, I always brag on him, is Curse. He's 3-time Pro Bowl, first-team All-Pro also, AP NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he got a lot going for him. And is Curse in the Ring of Honor yet here? No? I don't think he is. I'm just,
But again, with Javon,
I
get it, but the man was a comet.
But what I'm saying
it was
is
a comet.
this.
Like I said, it was a very bright lightning flash.
Okay, let's be honest. 3 years, 3 Pro Bowls. I mean, it's the same thing as we're saying Delaney's in that same boat then.
No, that's what Delaney's saying.
Well, yeah, there we go then.
That's
be real careful about that. That's right.
Cool.
That's right.
All right, that's what Delaney's saying then. I mean, Kurt's got one first-team All-Pro under his belt.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I don't have any All-Pros or Pro Bowls. So let me caveat by saying that. But what I'm saying is this. If you want to mention HOF, you better be that dude.
But he's not. He's a good football player.
Just
and
like
that,
a lot
we
of
can
us.
still appreciate what he did here. Hall of Fame, not great. And what he said about Atlanta, not great either. We'll do another 4 hours tomorrow. How about that?
Let's knock it out.
Yeah, let's knock it out. Buck Rising is coming up next.
With a new cat.
With a new cat. I don't know why he needed a new cat.
His sweet girlfriend is begging for a dog.
Yeah, she
man.
wants a dog, and he gets a third cat.
I think he's just trolling her.
At this point, they're going to have 20 cats and still no dogs. So you can borrow Jameis's dog.
Because he won't throw to it.
And he definitely won't throw to it. At Ramon Foster, at Schaefer on Sports, at JMart Radio. We'll see you again tomorrow. JMart and Ramon. Podcast us. Tweet us at JMart and Ramon. And remember,
your Twitter finger and your mic is always out, baby.
But your camera's broken.